Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the Broccoli Fanfics. Back with amazing fanfiction. This is the series of What If Deku Had Villainous Emulator Quirk. Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. When Todoroki had woken up he was very sore, and when he tried to move he hurt like a beach in more than a few places. It was pretty clear he wouldn't be sitting up without help or some heavy painkillers for the time being. Upon opening his eyes, he found himself in an unfamiliar room. It was dark, but from what he could see it looked like a normal bedroom. It wasn't his bedroom, that's for sure, but it was definitely a bedroom and not prison cell or anything. He could, perceivable, not be in danger right now, though there's always a chance he's in a lot of danger. He doesn't really remember what happened right before he went unconscious, but it must have been something if he hurts this badly. Todoroki just lays there on the bed and thinks about what to do in this situation. He doesn't want to die, but he's also missing a lot of the information he needs to make an informed decision. Plus, he has no idea where his things are and he can't leave without them. It didn't take long to find out he's not alone here. After about 20 minutes of being awake, a door opened and someone came in the room. They were just a shadow until they turned on the light. The sight of them made Todoroki tense up. They were in black pants with many pockets, boots, and a skin-tight tank top. That part wasn't what set off Todoroki's danger senses. It was the metal mouthguard that was designed to look like a shark-toothed smile, and the mask and bandana clearly there to hide his identity. Why don't they want Todoroki to see when they look like? You're awake. Yay, I was getting worried. You probably hurt pretty bad. Let me grab you some pain relievers. I'll be right back. The person was using a voice changer but still sounded genuinely happy Todoroki was awake. When they came back, they helped Todoroki sit up and gave him a water bottle and pack of painkillers. Both were unopened and so presumed safe. Once he'd taken the pills, the masked person sat down on the edge of the bed. So how do you feel? I'm fine. Todoroki offered, not want to make himself seem weak in front of his potentially dangerous captor. The guy tilted his head to the side. If you think lying will make me leave you alone, you are mistaken. I'm no fool. You got severely injured and I know you are not fine. Tell the truth. Thinking this guy might have a lie detector quirk, Todoroki decided to cooperate. I hurt a lot, but the painkillers are helping. I'm very sore. Most of the pain is in my left shoulder and my right leg, but my arm hurts too. The guy nodded. Sounds about right. You rest up okay? I'll make you some food. Wait, Todoroki said. The guy paused before he could get more than a few steps away and tilted his head again. Todoroki wished his mask didn't have one-way lenses built over the eyes, as it was really creepy to be stared at by pupilless red circles. Well, the guy prompted. Who are you? Why am I hurt? How did I get here? Todoroki asked. The guy nodded. You're here because that broker you met with decided you were worth more as a hostage than a client. I found and saved you, but you weren't in good shape, so I took you here to fix you up. Todoroki took that in, and what he'd been doing before this situation came back to him. Well, what about my other questions? Where is here and who even are you? The guy hummed and considered a moment. This place is my secret hideout and you may call me Black Rabbit. Now we can talk more after I make some food. The guy, Black Rabbit, left the room then, and Todoroki was left in bed speechless, stunned, confused, and maybe a bit scared. Black Rabbit was a name Todoroki had heard of, a name a lot of people have heard of, and not in a good way, though it explained why he was hiding his identity. Black Rabbit was the most wanted vigilante in Japan with a huge bounty on his head. No one knew anything about him, but he's been giving the pros a run for their money for years now. He's a genius and one of the most dangerous people you'll ever meet. His quirk is unknown, but it's theorized to be an emulator of some kind, given that he'll show up to a fight seemingly with a quirk he's witnessed someone use before. And now Todoroki was in Black Rabbit's secret base. Oh God, what did he get himself into? He should have gone home and groveled like Endeavor wanted. No, he wasn't going to that. Not this time. He's tired of bending to that man. If he dies here, it's still better than going back there. He just needs a more reliable source to get a new identity from that he chose initially. That bad choice got him here. He couldn't get up yet, so he examined his body to view the damage. He was embarrassed to find he was in clothes that were not his own. They were older and too big, definitely having once belonged to an adult. Did Black Rabbit change his clothes for him? No, don't think about that. His arms were bandaged and his right felt like there were hard boards or something under the bandages that were keeping his arms set straight like a makeshift cast. Same for his right leg. The bandages were wrapped so tight he doubts he could move either, but it was still loose enough not to cut off circulation. His left leg was bandaged sparingly and he had a bandage on his face, plus he was no doubt bruising all over. No wonder he's so sore. Black Rabbit came back a short while later with a tray containing a plate of something that smelled delicious. He laughed when Todoroki's stomach growled and set the tray on Todoroki's lap like he was serving breakfast in bed to a sweetheart before sitting back on the edge of the bed. "Eat up, you're no doubt staved." Black Rabbit sounded cheerful and charming. It was disarming and a complete reversal from everything Todoroki had heard about this guy. "Is it poisoned?" Todoroki asked bluntly. Black Rabbit almost laughed. "Of course not, silly. It's rude to poison your guests. Plus, I spent 2 healing capsules on you already and I'm not going to let you waste them by dying. Now eat." For better or for worse, Todoroki did as he was told and was pleasantly surprised to find the food wasn't terrible. Black Rabbit seemed pleased he was listening to him. Only after Todoroki had finished his meal and everything had been cleared did Black Rabbit allow them to have a conversation, perching back on the bedside like before. "So, any other cleaver questions?" Todoroki was quiet for a moment. "Are you going to ask me anything? Or do you not care?" "Oh, I have plenty of questions for you," Black Rabbit responded, "but you're the guest, so it's only fair you get your turn first. Now, what do you want to know?" This was probably a unique opportunity that no one else has ever had, the chance to ask the infamous Black Rabbit anything. If Todoroki was a pro, he'd be a lot more excited and ready to take advantage of this for the good of others, but he wasn't. He was barely 14 years old, not even in high school, and after everything that's happened recently he has no right to play hero. "Are you the vigilante called Black Rabbit?" You've heard of me." Black Rabbit didn't seem too bothered by this. "Well, you are one of the most wanted people in Japan. I'm only that high on the list because the pros are upset I do their job better than them and want me out of the picture before I give them a bad name. Why is this guy so friendly? He's supposed to be a dangerous and cunning criminal. Am I being held hostage? Am I a prisoner?" While Todoroki wasn't sure what answer he'll get, he still wanted to ask. Black Rabbit did the head tilt thing again. "What? No, not at all. Remember what I said earlier? That I rescued you and you were hurt badly?" "Yeah," Todoroki said hesitantly. "Well, it's true." Black Rabbit gave a decisive nod. "I would have taken you to a hospital, but if you were buying a new identity, you clearly don't want to be found by someone. At a hospital, you'd surely be found out, so I took you here." Todoroki stared at Black Rabbit. Of all possible answers, he was not expecting one that was so considerate of his feelings and clear circumstances. "So you aren't holding me here? I can leave." Black Rabbit made a so motion with his hand. "Well, I technically am holding you here, but only until you're healed up. After that, just tell me when you want to leave and I'll get you out without you knowing where my base is." Todoroki blinked. "Really?" "Yeah, I'm a vigilante, not a kidnapper. Hostages just aren't my jazz." Black Rabbit made it sound like the very notion was ridiculous. "How long until I'm good to go?" Black Rabbit gave a moment's thought. "I'd estimate roughly 2 weeks. The health capsules I made you take when I rescued you are speeding the healing process up, otherwise it'd take much longer since you broke 2 bones and got stabbed in the shoulder." Todoroki nodded. "It's only 2 weeks, he can handle this." Black Rabbit gave him a minute to answer another question, but when none came he asked one of his own. "What's your name?" Todoroki was caught off guard. He would have assumed Black Rabbit would have gone through his thing and already found out a lot of personal information. "It's okay, I promise I won't use your identity against you," Black Rabbit assured. "But FYI, if you don't give me a name I will be calling you Peppermint Boy exclusively." Well, Todoroki doesn't want that to happen. "Shouto Todoroki." Black Rabbit leaned back slightly. "Oh, well, that explains why you were trying to get a new identity. I'd be trying to hit the road too if I was Endeavor's son. That man is more of a villain than a hero. Todoroki couldn't believe it. Finally, someone saw it, how awful Endeavor is. He's waited so long for someone not in the family to call that man a villain that he doesn't even care that person ended up being one of the most wanted people in Japan. He is, but how'd you figure that out? Observation. Black Rabbit stated. He doesn't want to be a hero, he just wants power and doesn't care if people get hurt in the process of achieving it. He's a disgrace. How many lives have been lost because he brute forces his way through everything? Todoroki sighed and relaxed. Okay, this isn't so bad. Thank you. No one outside my family has ever acknowledged how terrible he is. Black Rabbit nodded. People are blind to what they don't want to see. Now, you get some rest, I'll be back later. Black Rabbit left then with the tray. He was a strange one. Todoroki honestly couldn't decide what to think of him. He's heard plenty of rumors, but Black Rabbit seemed too nice to be the criminal he's said to be. He was kind to him and gave him food and medical attention and even considered whether taking him to a hospital would have worsened his situation. Who does that? Who considers those things? As time passed, Black Rabbit seemed even less and less aligned with the rumors about him. He was kind, he made dumb jokes, gave Todoroki good food and listened to him. Black Rabbit never tried to hurt him even though it wouldn't be difficult with Todoroki bedridden for the most part. Instead, he was clearly trying to keep Todoroki entertained, relaxed, and in a good mood while also diligently keeping up with his needs and medical care. He'd bring Todoroki books that pertain to interests he's mentioned having and comics and showed he really wanted Todoroki to feel safe and happy while he stays here. It was mind-blowing that someone could so clearly care so much. The sheer amount of empathy and compassion he had for others was absurd. Todoroki would be lying if he said he wasn't beginning to like Black Rabbit as a person. He was funny and genuine and enthusiastic and so caring. He listened to Todoroki and remembered his likes and dislikes. How is this guy a wanted criminal? He seemed so excited to have Todoroki around too. He must be lonely. Being a wanted vigilante probable doesn't leave much room for making friends. After a week, the pain was down enough for Todoroki to make it farther than to the bathroom and back, though Black Rabbit still insisted he use the crutch he provided when getting around. Todoroki managed to figure out where the kitchen was, but that's it. The base was like a maze with dead ends and false doors. All over very confusing, and it made Todoroki thankful for the crutch. Where Black Rabbit was during his time not with Todoroki remained a mystery. Thankfully, Black Rabbit stopped wearing the mouth guard around Todoroki after the first week as well, and Todoroki was blown away when he heard his real voice. It was not the voice of a seasoned adult, and Todoroki had asked his age without thinking. Black Rabbit laughed and made a joke about having PBRY voice before admitting he's 14 just like Todoroki. All Todoroki could think was, what the F dash? How on earth was one of the most wanted criminal in Japan only 14? It crazy, but Todoroki doesn't doubt it. He's smart and self-sufficient, but that is the voice of a teenager, and he certainly doesn't have the mannerisms of an adult. He's actually kind of awkward. Knowing he was dealing with someone his own age made Todoroki relax even more. It was less frightening to deal with another kid than with an adult. By the time 2 weeks had passed, Todoroki was actually enjoying himself. He didn't think the mask was creepy anymore, being used to it at this point. Black Rabbit was so animated Todoroki was beginning to be able to differentiate what emotion Black Rabbit is feeling just by his head tilts. It was strange, but Todoroki didn't mind. Once the 2 weeks were up, Black Rabbit came in and manually took Todoroki's bandages off for him. It took a while, but eventually all of them had been removed and Todoroki felt better than he had in a while. Black Rabbit helped Todoroki stand, and it felt great being on his feet again without the crutch. He didn't hurt at all now, so whatever were in those health capsules really worked. One thing Todoroki did notice now that they were both standing right next to each other was that Black Rabbit was short. He didn't notice too much before, but now it was incredibly obvious. What are you staring at, Todoroki? Is there something on my mask? You're tiny. Todoroki stated bluntly. Black Rabbit let out an offended gasp, putting a hand over his heart. I am not short. I'm simply fun-sized. Todoroki couldn't help but let out a snort of laughter. What is this? He never laughs. The corner of Todoroki's mouth tilted up at Black Rabbit, shaking his head good-naturedly. He still didn't know the guy's true face or identity, but being here felt safer and more like a home than his family's house ever did. Maybe that's why he didn't say anything about wanting to leave then. He was aware he was getting into something he shouldn't by sticking around, but Todoroki didn't really care right now. This is the happiest he's been in years. Plus, they were probably looking for him by now, and the last thing he wants is to go back to Endeavor. Black Rabbit wanted him to do a few physical tests to make sure he was really back in working order. Todoroki followed him through the maze until they wound up in a large training area with padded floors, weights, punching bags, and anything else one would need in a gym. The tests were held there and were simple exercises exactly as Black Rabbit said. Todoroki passed all of them easily, and with that he was all clear. I don't understand how you can find your way around so well. In a week I only found the kitchen. Black Rabbit laughed at that. Keep looking, maybe one day you'll find the living room. I'm going to get so lost. Todoroki said with a small laugh. Do you want a tour around the basic area? There was amusement in Black Rabbit's voice. Please. The tour had been confusing with all the twists and turns. There are false doors and halls that lead in circles. It's kind of elaborate. If anyone does find this place, they'll have a hard time finding Black Rabbit's things within the labyrinth. That's probably the entire point of it being like this. Todoroki will just have to try and memorize the place. Time passed and Todoroki began figuring out how to get around. He still didn't know where Black Rabbit was half the time and doesn't try to, not wanting to press his luck. They do eat together and hang out. Just because Todoroki isn't hurt anymore doesn't mean Black Rabbit engages with him any less. He actually does it even more now, and Todoroki's life is filled with excited chatter. Both of them take time to watch the news together to keep track of the where in the world is Shouto Todoroki media coverage. Todoroki assumes the room he woke up in was his now, since that's where Black Rabbit left his stuff and anything else he gets for him. Eventually Todoroki decides to do more than exist and starts trying to clean or cook for Black Rabbit. He's not good at either but doesn't want to be a freeloader and can't think of anything else. Black Rabbit then started showing up in the kitchen when Todoroki is trying to cook to help him figure it out. How he knows where Todoroki is and how he gets there seemingly out of nowhere is a mystery. The base, Todoroki figured, is underground somewhere, which is why time seems to flow strangely. All the windows are fake, though the image through the glass reflects the time of day. There are clocks all over the place too. He doesn't want to leave for good, but maybe he could convince Black Rabbit to help him find a way out to get some air for a bit. After all, the vigilante had always made it clear he wasn't going to force him to stay down here if he doesn't want to. Upon entering the kitchen, he finds an unlikely sight. A boy with undercut green hair and freckles like stars was asleep at the table. His cheek was smushed against the wood and he was drooling a little bit. Todoroki's heart just about stopped. That is the most adorable boy he's ever laid eyes on. If he wasn't still in his Black Rabbit suit and the full head mask and mouthguard wasn't still clutched in one of his hands, Todoroki might have been worried. Instead, he's just trying to cope with the fact that without the mask, Black Rabbit could win against a sleepy 2-week-old puppy in a most adorable contest. It's unfair. There was an unretrieved piece of toast in the toaster which filled in the timeline. Black Rabbit probably came back from patrol and started making toast for a snack but fell asleep while waiting. Todoroki shook his head and decided to make him an actual meal. He's pretty good at breakfast foods now. When the smell of the food began filling the air, Black Rabbit finally started waking up. Roki? Is that you? Black Rabbit sounded tired. A quick glance showed his was sitting up, blinking the sleep away. Sleepy Black Rabbit is even cuter than asleep Black Rabbit, and his tired voice makes the nickname he calls Todoroki sound extra cute. It's so very unfair. Morning, Black Rabbit. Did you enjoy your nap on the table? Todoroki replied but couldn't keep the smile out of his voice. The cute was too powerful. I fell asleep at the table? No wonder my face hurt. Black Rabbit stopped mid-sentence and went pale. He just saw the mask in his hand and realized Todoroki saw his real face. Todoroki finished cooking and set a plate of food in front of Black Rabbit, sitting across from him with his own food. Eat something. I'm not hungry. Black Rabbit mumbled. Todoroki raised an eyebrow at him. Are you upset because you don't have your mask on? Black Rabbit nodded. You know what I look like now. It's kinda bad to have people know what Black Rabbit looks like without the mask. I won't tell anyone anything. Todoroki responded casually. Wait, really? You won't turn me in for the reward money? Black Rabbit looked skeptical but Todoroki shook his head. No. I like you. I'm on Japan's most wanted list. Black Rabbit stated in disbelief. And Endeavor's the number 2 hero but we both know he's a monster. Todoroki pointed out. You, on the other hand, took me in despite the risk because you noticed I was running and would be caught if taken to a hospital. Black Rabbit wrapped his arms around his head to poorly hide the fact his face was completely red, which was also adorable. I suppose you have a point. Look, Todoroki said with feeling, I'm not going to rat out the one person who seems to give 2 sheets about me. I never felt like anyone really cared about me until I woke up here. Black Rabbit let out a distressed whine. No, I can't take the compliments. I've never really had friends or anything, so I guess I'm just really excited to have company. So, does that mean you don't mind that I've stuck around here instead of asking to leave? I know you said I go after the first 2 weeks, but I didn't really want to. Todoroki asked while Black Rabbit finally started on his food. No, I don't mind at all. Black Rabbit said earnestly. I've actually been meaning to ask if you want me to get you a new identity, but I didn't want to make you think I wanted you gone. It's more you can only be cooped up down here so long, you know? Todoroki stared at Black Rabbit. Wait, seriously? You can do that? I can't pay you. I sure can and no need, just keeping my secrets will be enough. Black Rabbit said with a grin. It'll take a lot of work, but we can start after we're done eating. Todoroki smiled gratefully. Thank you, Black Rabbit. Black Rabbit chewed his lip for a moment before replying. Of course, but if you're really going to stay with me then, when I'm out of the mask you can just call me Izuku. It's less of a mouthful. Todoroki blinked then nodded. All right, Izuku. They finish eating then move to the living room where Izuku leaves Todoroki only to return minutes later in normal clothes and carrying a laptop. Todoroki sits on the sofa while Izuku lays chest down on a pile of pillows already situated on the floor. He opens the computer and types for a minute before looking at Todoroki with a grin. Let's falsify some papers. Do you really know what you're doing? Todoroki questioned. Izuku scoffed. Of course. Falsifying stuff is easy. Now I'm going to ask you some prying questions and you got to be honest with me or this won't come out believable. Todoroki nodded. All right. Great. Now what's your quirk and do you have any plans for the future that involve it? Like heroism or revenge, for example? Izuku asked. It's half cold, half hot. I can make ice with my right side and fire with my left. I kind of want to be a hero. I'm not in it for power or to be number 1, I just want to save people and be kind. Todoroki admitted. Endeavor wanted him to be number 1 but he's not attached to Endeavor anymore. He's about to get a new identity and can do things without worrying what Endeavor thinks. Endeavor won't be validated by anything he does if he doesn't know it's him. Izuku hummed. Okay, first we're changing what your quirk is called because its current name is super lame. What about Icy Hot or Freezer Burn? No, those aren't good enough. I know. Frostfire. How about that? Todoroki shrugged. Okay. His answer made Izuku pout. This is gonna be your identity for the rest of your life, Roki. This is your chance to make yourself who you want to be. Don't make me decide everything for you. Get down here and participate. Todoroki hesitantly moved next to Izuku on the pillow pile where he could see the laptop screen. On it was a template of some kind with categories to fill out. Okay, I'm here. Well, what do you want your quirk to be called? Izuku asked. Todoroki thought a minute. Well, I don't like using my left side because I don't like using Endeavor's power. Maybe we can just put I only have ice powers and leave it at that. We can call it Deep Freeze. Nope. Izuku denied immediately. Todoroki stared at him incredulously. What do you mean nope? I mean, Izuku emphasized, are you seriously telling me, who knows firsthand how hard this job is, that you're not going to give everything you've got into a job where you are responsible for whether innocent people live or die? Todoroki's eyes widened. Izuku was right. Not using everything he has when he's a pro hero will inevitably get someone killed. Had he really been so self-absorbed that it never occurred to him that only using half his power would eventually affect more than just him? You're right. I was too focused on not giving my father what he wanted to see the big picture. You can call my quirk the... Todoroki thought for a moment. Freezer Flame. Yeah. Izuku nodded in approval and typed the name in along with the description, then pat Todoroki, who was looking ashamed of himself, on the shoulder. Hey, I do understand why you would want to avoid using it, but Endeavor's not watching anymore. You're free, and if you want I can help you get used to your fire. You'd really help me? Todoroki asked. Izuku gave an embarrassed laugh. Well, I've always wanted a training buddy, and it'll be nice to train against a quirk in a controlled environment instead of learning on the job. Train in hand-to-hand combat, I mean. I won't make you face my babies. Your babies? Todoroki questioned. By babies I meant my support tech for my vigilante work. Izuku explained awkwardly. Don't worry about it. What should your new name be? They spent several hours making the new identity for Todoroki. Izuku was thorough to the point it felt like he'd done this before. Maybe he had. Once it was done, Shouto Todoroki would soon, somewhat legally, be Roki Kato. His birthday was changed from January 11th to May. Izuku went as far as to bullshit a fake family for him with quirks that could potentially produce Todoroki's quirk but that are completely different from his biological parents' actual quirks. Next they had to work on Todoroki's appearance. He, unfortunately in this case, looks pretty distinct with the scar and two-colored hair. Luckily, Izuku has everything to create the perfect disguise, and Todoroki was dragged by the hand through the base and into a hidden room full of costumes, makeup, and equipment. He was sat in a chair to wait while Izuku dashed around the large space grabbing things he needed. Okay, Roki, we're gonna have to give you a different hair color. Right now it's too distinct. Here's a palette of the dyes I have on me currently. Izuku said. Todoroki was handed a board with samples on it. I like the orange. Okay. Izuku grinned. And don't worry, you can dye your hair some other color again later, you just need to establish something as your natural hair color first. Have you ever dyed your hair before? No. I wasn't allowed. Izuku nodded like he wasn't surprised. That's fine, I'll teach you how to do it. I'll also teach you how to use makeup to cover your scar since it's a dead giveaway. I think I put my concealer over here somewhere. Todoroki watched Izuku rummage around the shelving and drawers for what he needs. The room seemed pretty clean for having so much stuff in it. Is this room where you keep all your Black Rabbit stuff? He asked. The Black Rabbit suit Izuku had been wearing earlier was hanging up on a rack with other various costumes. Gadgets and accessories also lined the nearby shelving and bins, organized for easy access. This room had a clear purpose. Yeah, I try to keep it organized. I really should recycle some of the old costumes, but I don't have the heart to throw them out, especially the ones that belong to my dad. Izuku responded absently. Your dad? Was he a hero? Todoroki asked. Izuku paused. Villain actually. My dad was the villain called Black Dragon. Black Dragon? Todoroki said in disbelief and awe. As in the Black Dragon said to have breath hot enough to incinerate but not even the flames of hell could burn? Izuku laughed. Yeah, that's him. Honestly though, he was a goofy guy with a big heart. He actually quit being a villain when he got serious with my mom, and when I was born he was officially a family man. Really? Todoroki raised an eyebrow as Izuku walked over to him with some makeup. He was smitten with my mom and I was his pride and joy. He helped me learn mechanics, how to fight and falsify documents, all kinds of stuff. I'm going to put this on your face to see if it's the right skin tone. Izuku warned. Todoroki nodded. Alright, what happened to him if you don't mind me asking? You don't seem to live with your parents. I don't mind. His past caught up to him. I think he always knew that might happen. That's why he taught me so much unconventional stuff and left me his secret base. He wanted me to be able to live by any means necessary. Izuku examined the makeup before removing it with a makeup wipe. Todoroki just let Izuku do whatever as they talked. So this used to be your dad's base? Yup. Izuku confirmed. Close your eyes, I'm going to cover up the scar. Todoroki obeyed and Izuku got to work. It felt weird since Todoroki had never worn makeup before and he tried really hard not to flinch as Izuku masked his eye. Izuku was thorough but gentle, whispering gentle words whenever Todoroki instinctively pulled back from the pressure being placed on his eyelid. Done. Izuku held up a mirror. Take a look, I think I did okay. Todoroki stared at his reflection in shock. If he couldn't tell he had makeup on his face, he might have questioned for a moment if his scar had ever existed in the first place. Wow! Izuku grinned, eyes shining in happiness, and it reminded Todoroki of sunshine. I'll start teaching you how to do it yourself next time. Now let's go fix your hair. If everything works out, we can go catch a late lunch at a cafe or something. We're leaving the base? Yes, after we dye your hair. I hope that's okay. Izuku said. You really need some fresh air after being down here for ages. Trust me when I say you'll go nuts if you're stuck in this place for too long. Todoroki smiled, well, one corner of his mouth tilted up slightly, and nodded. That's fine with me. Izuku gave him a thumbs up then ran off to grab the dye and things he'd need. He came back with an arm full of things. Come here and bring the chair. Todoroki did as he was told and followed Izuku through the room to the back where there was a bathroom area. Concrete flooring switched to tile but there was no door or anything. It was a hidden area in the room with a sink, a shower, a bench, and a floor-to-ceiling first aid cabinet. Izuku put all his supplies on the bench by the cabinet, then put the chair Todoroki had brought in front of the sink and made him sit before going back to his supplies. Okay, Roki, you wanted orange, correct? Yes. Todoroki confirmed. Right then, I'm going to have to bleach the red side of your hair for the dye to be seen. It's not going to be the most pleasant feeling on your scalp, but just resist the urge to itch. If it gets unbearable, tell me. Izuku said, mixing up the bleach. All right. Todoroki agreed simply. He trusted Izuku knew what he was doing and didn't lean away from the cold feeling of the syrupy bleach being applied to the left side of his hair. Pretty soon he realized what Izuku had meant and resisted the urge to scratch at the prickly feeling on his scalp. Izuku kept him occupied with conversation so he didn't notice the uncomfortable feeling so much. Eventually Izuku put the mix down and said they had to wait a while for the bleach to work. They stayed there and talked. Izuku really liked having someone to talk to just for fun that wasn't a faceless forum user on the hero and support builder forums he frequents. Real human interaction that's more than just small talk at the grocery store checkout doesn't happen a whole lot and it's never like two friends of the same age talking, so having Todoroki around is like a blessing. Maybe he's being a bit too enthusiastic about the new identity thing, but he doesn't want to chance his new friend being caught and forced to go back to that monster of a man. He wants Todoroki to get a chance to be happy, but he also wants to continue being Todoroki's friend. So maybe he's being a little over-enthusiastic, but Todoroki doesn't seem to mind. When the bleach had done its job, Izuku washed it from Todoroki's hair in the sink, then mixed up the color and applied that to both sides of Todoroki's hair. A lot of dye, another hair wash, and a fight with a hairdryer later, Todoroki's peppermint hair was gone and was now more resembled an orange creamsicle. It was perfect, so now they could finally get some air. Getting out of the base was something. Todoroki tried to pay attention, but this place is confusing. When they exited from below, they were in a basement apartment. It had furniture but was clearly unused. Izuku explained that the apartment used to be his dad's and they kept up payments on it. Because of the secret base entrance. It's not weird to walk out through a door to an apartment, which is why they exit this way even though there are other ways out. It's less suspicious. They walked together down the street, chatting idly. It was really nice being in the fresh air where they could feel the sun. Izuku bounced as he walked and Todoroki tried not to laugh. It was so cute. How could this bright boy ever be a criminal? They made it to a small corner cat cafe called the Meowfie Shop. After clearing that Todoroki didn't have a cat allergy, Izuku took his hand and pulled him inside, talking up the food offered there, especially the desserts. They went up to the counter and ordered some food. Once they had their lunch, they went and sat at one of the tables near a cat play set with several kittens on it. I love it here. The atmosphere is great and you can pet as many cats as you want. Izuku said, eating a forkful of his paw-shaped piece of cake. Todoroki smiled a little, taking a sip of his tea. I was never allowed a pet. Not even a fish. Probably for the best. Izuku said. I wouldn't trust you know who around animals. Yeah, that's fair. Todoroki agreed, starting on the sandwich he'd gotten per Izuku's recommendation. I wanted a pet when I was little, but my family's apartment didn't allow them. I can't really keep one now for obvious reasons, but that's what cat cafes are for. Izuku trailed off as a very tired-looking man with long hair holding a coffee and a cat head-shaped pudding walked past them. Todoroki was very confused by the reaction. Do you know him? Todoroki asked once the man had passed, and Izuku sighed around another bite of his cake. Izuku made a so motion with his hand. Yes, no? Sort of. It's complicated. You have a complicated relationship with a lot of people, don't you? Izuku nodded. You've got no idea. They talk and eat their lunch at their little table, then play with the cats together. A little black kitten with one white ear climbed Todoroki's shirt and curled up on his shoulder, purring up a storm. It made Todoroki smile, and Izuku took about 28 pictures of the adorable sight with his phone. When they left, they were in a good mood, and since it was still nice out, they went shopping together. Izuku needed to pick up a few things anyway, and Todoroki deserved to pick out his own clothes instead of just using the couple outfits Izuku got him, so he wouldn't be stuck in the base with only one set of fitting clothes. While the clothes he got fit Todoroki, Izuku knows he has a terrible fashion sense. He's wearing a shirt that has the word pants written on it at this very moment, for Christ's sake. Todoroki deserves better than being subjected to Izuku's fashion tastes. He surely has better taste than Izuku, right? Wrong. After assuring Todoroki it's fine, Izuku has no issue paying for his things and it's really no big deal, Todoroki was released into the clothing store and quickly proved he was not a fashion icon. Izuku had held high hopes that Todoroki wouldn't be a complete disaster. All of those hopes were crushed the moment Todoroki showed him the first shirt he liked, and it turned out to have the same print patterns as a bowling alley carpet. It turns out Todoroki did have style, but that style was called being purposefully tacky. Being Endeavor's son, he's always had to present a certain image in how he acts and dresses. Now those restraints are gone and he gets to dress as much like a gay disaster as he wants to. With Todoroki's clear preference in mind, Izuku took him to some thrift stores that were full of vintage tacky finds, and Todoroki went wild. He got basically a new wardrobe for pretty cheap since it's 90% thrift finds. He seemed so happy he gets to look so tacky. Izuku felt happy just seeing him like this. Izuku had hoped one of them would have a competent fashion sense, but he's just as happy for them to be two different but equal disasters. They hit a shoe store because Izuku needs some new shoes, for what Izuku won't say in public, so it's probably Black Rabbit-related stuff. Todoroki followed him around the store as Izuku examined the shoes, mumbling to himself about modifications he'd have to do. Eventually Todoroki gets distracted by the Heelys and kids' light-up shoes. He always wanted those but knew even as a child Endeavor would never allow him to have something so childish. He's not tied to Endeavor anymore, but the shoes didn't come in his size since they're for little kids, so he's out of luck anyway. Also, he has a pair of shoes already and would feel bad asking Izuku for more. His captivation must have shown anyway because Izuku stopped by him as he passed to see what he was staring at. Roki, pick out sneakers you like that fit you, and I can add whatever bells and whistles you want at home, okay? If you don't want anything, you might want to sit down, I'm going to be a while. Izuku was gone again before Todoroki could reply. With nothing better to do, he seized the offer and scouted out some shoes he liked. He took his time, looking through everything and trying things on before choosing a very colorful pair of high tops. They were neon with several other neon colors ribboning around the sides of each shoe. They were a goddamn eyesore and he was in love with them. God, he loves not having to portray a certain image constantly. He would rather die than wear another perfectly coordinated outfit ever again after today. He's going to clash and wear outrageous patterns and love every second of it. No one can stop him now. Eventually Izuku did find him again. He was holding about 4 shoe boxes and Todoroki quickly followed him to the counter where Izuku paid for his 4 pairs and Todoroki's 1 pair. The boxes were somehow fit into 2 bags and they left the store together. Why did you need so many shoes? Todoroki asked as he followed his friend to their next destination. Experiments. Izuku replied absently as he scanned the area while they walked. Todoroki did not know what he meant, so he decided to pry a little. What do you mean experiments? Todoroki asked. I'll tell you later. Here we go. Izuku tugged Todoroki into a shop called Electroparts, then told him to wait near the door for him before walking up to the counter a short distance away. He rang the bell on the counter 3 times in a row, then waited. A short few moments later, a burly-looking guy in grease-stained overalls came up to the counter from the back room. When he saw it was Izuku waiting for him, he seemed delighted. Well, if it isn't my favorite little inventor. How you doing, kid? I'm doing great. My blueprints are almost done, so I can actually start my project soon. Izuku replied excitedly. The guy chuckled. Look at you getting a head start. I'm guessing you're here for your regular parts shipment. Yes, sir. Izuku replied with a grin. You got it, kid. Be right back. The guy went back to the other room, returning with a large rectangular wooden crate which he brought around and placed next to Izuku. The crate had the words, Support Course Trainee Package, stamped on the sides, and was almost as big as Izuku was. There we are. That's everything you ordered plus a little extra on us. The burly guy said. Izuku beamed. Thank you so much. This will be just what I need to get started. How much do I owe this time? No, the only payment I want is you getting into that program next year, you hear? The burly guy insisted. If you aren't the next big name in support tech, I'll eat my hat. Izuku blushed, getting flustered by the compliments. I'm not that amazing. I just love to tinker is all. The guy laughed and gave Izuku a rough pat on the back. Don't be so modest, you're going to do great things. All of us here are rooting for you. Thank you. Your support means a lot. Anything you need we'll get it for you, and that's a promise. Also, we finally acquired that scrapyard I mentioned last time you were here, so if you need any scrap metal or what have you, you're welcome to scavenge there. Gate code's 5826. Izuku jumped in joy. Thank you so much. The guy ruffled Izuku's hair. You're welcome, kid. Now get a move on before it gets too crowded to safely carry that crate. Izuku gave a nod. Right. Todoroki watched Izuku turn to the crate, lift it and situate it to hold in awkwardly under one arm like a 2-by-4-foot sack of flour. Izuku waved goodbye, then walked towards the door, gesturing for Todoroki to go first before following. As they walked home, Todoroki eyed the crate, wondering just how heavy it was. Izuku was carrying it with one arm, so it couldn't be that bad, right? No one seemed to bat an eye at Izuku carrying the huge crate, so it clearly wasn't unusual enough to draw attention. Todoroki had a lot of questions but decided to save them until they were home. Once they were back in the base, Todoroki trailed after Izuku all the way into a room he hadn't seen yet. This room was huge with concrete floors, big work tables, several fire extinguishers, and a mix of organized parts and disorganized piles of scrap were littered around. There were wires and tools everywhere, and Todoroki's pretty sure he can see both a blowtorch and a soldering iron in the room. By the time Izuku had set his crate down in a clear spot and turned back around, Todoroki's mind was blown. They looked at each other a moment before Izuku gestured around awkwardly. Welcome to my workshop? Your workshop? Todoroki repeated, still stupefied. Izuku rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly. Yeah. I can't buy support gear since I'm not a licensed pro and the quality of black market stuff is always dubious at best, so I gotta make my own. You use a lot of support gear as Black Rabbit then? Izuku laughed at that. Of course I do. I don't have a quirk, so I got to make my own advantage. Todoroki stared at Izuku in disbelief. Izuku gave him a confused look. What's wrong, Roki? You're quirkless? Yeah? Did you think I had a quirk? Izuku seemed a little bewildered that anyone would think he had a quirk. According to what I've heard, the working theory is that you had some kind of unidentified emulator quirk. The possibility of you being quirkless isn't even on the table. Todoroki explained. Izuku tapped his chin, looking pensive. An emulator quirk, huh? Well, I suppose I can see how people would think that based on my support gear. They're wrong, but I get where they're coming from. So, does the guy at the parts shop know you're a vigilante? Todoroki asked curiously. No, they have no idea. See, my dad introduced me to them when I was little, so I've spent a good deal of my childhood in their workshop learning hands-on mechanics from them. I took off with it pretty quick and started building my own gadgets, so now they're convinced I'm some kind of prodigy that's going to be the next support course star. Izuku explained and Todoroki nodded. Was that crate heavy? It's pretty big, but you didn't seem to have much trouble with it. Not really. It's probably only a 100 or so pounds. How does that not qualify as heavy? Todoroki asked in disbelief, and Izuku laughed. I'm a vigilante who carts around heavy material and does a daily workout plus training. We aren't even in the same ballpark physical strength-wise. I could totally bench press you. Really? Todoroki hoped that didn't sound as interested as he thought it did. He won't ask Izuku to prove it. An adorable sunshine boy who can also deadlift him? Nope. He's not opening that can of worms. Izuku grinned at him. Hell yeah. You don't get guns like these without doing some heavy lifting. Izuku flexed and Todoroki's heart stopped for a minute. There's a reason Todoroki has not focused too hard on Izuku's muscles, and it's completely unrelated to fear or trauma. He's just super gay. Yeah. Todoroki's voice cracked on the last word. Izuku gave him a concerned look. Roki, are you okay? You're a bit red. Don't worry, I'm fine. Did you always want to be a mechanic? Todoroki deflected quickly. Izuku tilted his head before deciding to drop it, instead taking a shoes box from one of their shoes store shopping bags now resting next to the crate and bringing it over to the work table while gesturing for Todoroki to follow and sit next to him on the workbench. A mechanic? No, not really. Then what did you want to do, if you don't mind me asking? Izuku busied himself for a moment with unpacking Todoroki's neon high tops from the shoes box and moving things around so he has a clearish workspace. Ironically enough, I wanted to be a hero. Izuku sounded a little bitter and kinda sad. Todoroki hesitated a moment before gently urging his friend on. Did your dad try to stop you or something? No, of course not. It's just I'm quirkless, and UA was the only school that accepts quirkless kids into the hero course, but there's no way I could pass the heroics entrance exam without a quick. Izuku explained while going over a blueprint he had pinned to the wall. Todoroki gave a nod. Seems like a rigged system. Yeah, but see, if you place in the top 3 at the sports festival, you can move from another course to the hero course. So taking that into account, my dad devised a plan to get me my dream. Todoroki sat forward a little, already drawn into the story. What was the plan? Izuku smiled again, and Todoroki thought it suited him better than a frown. It was simple: get me into the support course and have me win at the sports festival. He took me to the gym with him and helped me start building muscle and to electroparts to start learning mechanics. Why the support course and not Gen Ed? Well, by age 4 I'd figured out how to use my Tinker Toys to get to the cookie jar on top of the fridge, and Dad knew potential when he saw it. Plus, if heroics didn't work out, support mechanics was a great backup plan. Your dad sounds pretty great. Todoroki commented. Izuku nodded. He was. Hey, not to change the subject, but what did you want me to do to your shoes? Oh, what can you make them do? Todoroki was unprepared for the mood switch as his innocent question caused Izuku shifted into nerd mode. So many things, Izuku said, the sheer, unfettered excitement rolling off him waves as he beamed at Todoroki with shining eyes. Like what? Todoroki had never seen him this excited, and it compelled him to egg him on. Oh, you're going to love this. I'm an expert at modifications. Nothing is without potential for improvement. Now where is that notebook? Izuku said while rummaging around his workspace. Todoroki watched him from his spot on the bench for a minute before noticing a drawer labeled notes. He opened it and found a bunch of notebooks organized neatly with identifying labels on the spines. Is it one of these? Izuku turned to him, then went and checked the drawer before pulling one out triumphantly and beginning to flip through it. It was where it's supposed to be for once. Now, modifications. You have basics like lights, wear and tear resistance, etc., but I can make modifications no one else would even dream of. Really? Todoroki had no idea where this conversation was headed, but Izuku looked so happy getting nerd out to someone about his passion that Todoroki was down for wherever this was going. There was just something so cute about seeing this boy so happy, and Izuku gleefully proceeded to go full nerd on him. Have you ever heard of Gran Torino before? No. He's a retired pro with a quirk that lets him use air jets in his feet to move wicked fast. Izuku explained. I need to move fast to not get caught while being Black Rabbit, so invented a modification that replicates his quirk. Todoroki stared at him a moment, stunned. You replicated someone's quirk? Well, for the most part anyway. Izuku confirmed. It's not possible to make an exact replication of any quirk artificially, but I can get close. Quirk replication gear and need-specific gadgets are my specialty. That's amazing. Todoroki was completely and utterly impressed. Izuku immediately became flustered, red dusting his cheeks and highlighting his freckles. Oh geez, I'm sure you're just saying that, but thank you anyway. No, I really mean it. Todoroki insisted. I didn't even know that was possible. It's incredible. And you figured it out all by yourself? Izuku, you're amazing. Izuku wrapped his arms around his head at Todoroki's genuine and earnest words while his face was consumed with a deep blush. He let out a distressed whine. No one ever wants to listen to my theories and research. I've been laughed off forums for merely suggesting the topic of my study. I'm not prepared for you to be impressed. It hurt Todoroki inside that no one ever even tries to listen to Izuku. What he's accomplishing is incredible, and he's clearly so passionate about it. Todoroki doesn't really understand mechanics or theory and will be completely lost on the technical aspect, but if Izuku wants to talk about it, he'll listen. Izuku got so excited at the chance to tell him about the things he can do. He shouldn't have to keep his passion to himself like he is. He hasn't had anyone it's safe to talk about really anything to in who knows how long. Well, now he has Todoroki. Izuku made Todoroki feel cared about for the first time in years and years, like he's not alone, like there's hope and things will get better. He will gladly listen to Izuku talk for hours about anything, especially if he gets to see him so happy and excited like he was when talking about his invention. Plus, Izuku did just buy him a bunch of stuff, is letting him live with him, and gave him a new identity for free. Todoroki may come from a rich family, but he knows when to be grateful. Izuku, I'll listen to you if you want. I won't say I'll understand everything, but I'll listen. Izuku was speechless for a moment, looking like no one has ever told him that, which is heartbreaking. You'll get tired of my voice real quick. No, I won't. I don't mind just listening with minimal input. I'm usually not a talkative person. I've just been trying to be for you since you like talking. Todoroki wouldn't say he's great at conversation, but he doesn't mind it so much if it's Izuku he's talking to. Roki, you're too good for me, Izuku whined, switching to hiding his face behind his hands. No, you deserve to have someone listen, and it isn't a bother to me if it's with you. Plus, I kind of like seeing you so excited. Izuku took a breath and calmed down before nodding. I'm used to being made fun of, so I'd have to work up to nerding out, but if you want you can watch me work on your shoes and I'll explain what I'm doing while I work. It's a start at least. I'd like that. Todoroki assured, and Izuku chewed his lip nervously. Something was still on his mind. You can't talk about my research to anyone, all right? Izuku warned. I've designed my life so I'm not on anyone's radar when I'm not Black Rabbit, and I don't want to chance my identities getting connected. You saved my life. I'd never do something that would endanger yours. Todoroki agreed. Izuku finally smiled again. Okay, thank you. Now, I saw you looking at the light-up shoes, so you want me to give these some lights to start out with? Yes. Todoroki watched Izuku work on his shoes for the next few hours. It was fascinating. Izuku was so skilled and precise with his modifications, knowing exactly what to do to reach the goal. He was clearly an expert in his field and did all of it while explaining what he was doing. He barely had to consult his blueprints at all, only doing so every so often to double-check he wasn't FANG up Todoroki's new shoes. He kept saying that all of what he was doing was relatively simple, all while assembling and wiring a device from scratch and building it into the base of the shoes in a way that makes it not look like an add-on. Todoroki didn't understand most of the commentary Izuku was giving, and what he was doing looked anything but simple, but Izuku seemed to know what he was doing. Watching Izuku's expertise in action gave Todoroki even more respect for his mechanical abilities. If this was what he considered simple, Todoroki can imagine he's capable of creating amazing things, or incredible dangerous things. He works fast too. In the first 2 hours he'd built, installed, and taught Todoroki how to work the lights. In the first half of the next hour he took a container of a clear substance and applied it to the colored stripes on the shoes, claiming that the substance will make the colors glow in the dark. If that wasn't cool enough, Izuku also explained he discovered the chemical combination for it himself and mixes the different chemicals to create the substance by hand in his lab. He has a lab, implying he was also a talented chemist. Todoroki knew Izuku was smart, but now he's beginning to think this boy may be a literal genius. The second half of that hour was spent at a different work table. Izuku had put on a face mask and protective goggles, making Todoroki do the same, and used what looked like an airbrush gun modified to spray large surfaces to coat Todoroki's shoes in another substance. Apparently, this spray was a treatment that Izuku uses to increase the longevity of material and protect it. It prevents wear and tear, waterproofs it, prevents fading, etc. It's a must for all shoes if you want them to really last, according to Izuku. Oh, and he created this spray too. Yeah, Izuku is definitely some kind of genius, and the entire world should be very grateful he stopped at vigilante instead of going full villain. Once the shoes had been evenly coated a few times and given about 5 minutes to dry after each layer, Izuku took of his protective gear and handed the shoes over. Todoroki held them like he's never held anything more valuable in his life. He's never had such cool shoes and was so happy with them. Heck, he was almost ready to hug Izuku for doing this, but that would probably be weird. He can't remember the last time he gave or received a hug. So, do you like your shoes? Izuku asked. Todoroki nodded. I love them. Izuku beamed, and Todoroki felt like he may need to get sunglasses from just how bright his friend was. It's like this boy is made of sunshine. I'm so glad. Now I'll help you figure out how to get to your room from here, and you can put your stuff up, then we'll work on dinner. All right. Todoroki agreed as they walked towards the door. By the time they were in the hall, Izuku was mumbling to himself, deep in thought. Todoroki only caught bits of what he was saying. If we do that, quantify the time crunch. 2 hours and 12 minutes, might work. Then I should have, before patrol. Izuku. Todoroki interrupted him. Izuku looked up like he only just realized he wasn't alone. Oh, sorry, I was mumbling again, wasn't I? Yeah. It's a thing I sometimes do when I'm trying to figure something out. I hope it doesn't bother you too much. Izuku admitted sheepishly. Todoroki shook his head. Sure, it's a little weird, but he'll get used to it. The mumbling isn't the issue here. It's fine. I actually stopped you because I heard you say something about patrolling. Well, yeah. I'm a vigilante, remember? I patrol every night. Izuku reminded. Todoroki let out a breath, for the first time thinking that Izuku might be a bit of a disaster. Weren't you so tired when you got back this morning that you passed out while trying to make toast? I'll be fine, Roki. I know what I'm doing. Izuku dismissed. You didn't even take your costume off before going to the kitchen. Todoroki reminded. Don't come at me with your logic and facts. I'll be fine, and it's not like you can stop me. It was clear Izuku was trying to sound mad, but he wasn't succeeding at all and instead just looked and sounded stubborn and pouty. It was cute. I'm not trying to stop you, I just think you should make sure to get some sleep too. Todoroki suggested. Izuku's attitude deflated. I know. I'll see what I can do. Izuku slipped through the shadows, moving silently. The system he installed in his boots uses circulated air that allows him not just incredible speed but the ability to skate over the ground without touching it, thus making no noise as he moves. The quick but silent movement combined with an outfit that's just the right color to make it almost impossible to see it in the dark, which is great for his stealth and only helps him make villains liken him to a living nightmare. Given his goal is to be something that no one wants to meet in a dark alley, he can't say he's complaining. He continues on his patrol route. It's been a bit since he's been here, and he hopes the pros haven't shuffled their routes while he wasn't scouting this area. He sticks to the shadows just in case. No one has caught him yet, but there have been some close calls, and now that he has a friend at home depending on him, it's even more important not to get caught. One of the rabbit ears on his head twitched as the built-in radio sensors picked up a signal before sending the feed into Izuku's earpiece. It was hard to make out at first, then the audio enhancer finished doing its job and the feed became clear. It sounded like fighting, a lot of it, and whoever owns the radio that connected to his tech doesn't sound like they're winning. Well, he didn't invent the tech to wirelessly access anything with a signal just to ignore when said tech picks up the sound of someone in distress. It's been a pretty boring patrol so far anyway, and he's dying to try out his new device. He opens a panel on one of his arm guards and presses a few buttons. After a second, his rabbit ear twitched again and an address appeared on the small screen. Now that he knew where he was going, he closed the panel and started on his way. He skated at an increased speed through alleys and back streets, silent movements making nothing more than a moving shadow. When he was close enough, he hid in an alley and climbed the wall of a building. He's yet to perfect his advanced grip formula, so he had to scale it the normal way, or he could be logical and use his grappling gun. The grappling gun got him up there in no time and was made to be relatively quiet. Once he was on the roof and the grappling gun was stowed away, he quietly moved towards the other end on the roof where the sound of fighting could easily be heard. Being careful to remain out of sight, appearing as just another shadow, he peered over to scope out what he was dealing with. Oh boy, was this a doozy. There was one pro hero against at least 8 villains. They weren't high-ranking villains but definitely looked like a gang of some kind. The pro had decommissioned 3 of them and was fighting a 4th one while having number 5 trapped. It was quite impressive considering it was one against many with no opening to call for backup. This would be interesting to just watch, but one of the things that makes Black Rabbit a vigilante and not a villain is that he doesn't stand by and let things happen. If someone is in trouble and needs assistance, he will step in and help even if that someone is a pro hero. He has to be careful when it's a pro, since to the pro he'd be considered a threat, not the ally he's trying to be. Usually he'll scope it out for longer than normal and really analyze if they need his assistance. If they do, he has to stay out of their range, usually working long distance. Ideally, they won't even know what's happened until all the villains are out cold and Izuku is giving them a witty remark from a safe distance before escaping. Like he told Todoroki, to do his vigilante work he needs to be fast. Luckily, the pro hero he's saving today is only Eraserhead, which makes things much easier on him. Eraserhead knocked out Villain 4, then got to work of Villain 5 that was currently caught in his tricky capture weapon. Izuku really needs to get one of those for himself somehow. While from the ground it may look like Eraser has it covered, Izuku's aerial view says otherwise. There are villains hiding in the back that Eraserhead clearly hasn't noticed. If he had, his back would not be turned right now. The new villains try to be stealthy and ambush Eraserhead with intent to kill or at least decommission. It's really too bad Izuku has no problem with saving people who should be trying to arrest him, or these goons might have had the honor of saying they were able to hurt Eraserhead. Well, he can't have a pro hurt on his watch. He has a reputation of being recklessly helpful but completely uncatchable to keep up. Time to try out his new gear. He activated it and a freezing mist shot out and coved the half on the area Eraserhead was not in. It was non-lethal and wouldn't leave lasting physical damage, but it will freeze the targets where they stand for a good 30 seconds. That's plenty of time for Izuku to jump in and ruin their night and probably break a lot of their bones too. Izuku proceeded to do a flip off the roof and kick the frozen guy closest to hurting Eraserhead in the head, knocking the guy out cold before landing on his feet. You take care of that side and I'll cover this one. Got it, Eraser? Izuku said while easily flipping another villain like a human pancake and letting the hard ground knock the air out of him. It's just like you to show up at a 2 a.m. brawl. Eraserhead replied as the two of them fell into formation, and you could just hear the tired exasperation in his voice. I appear where I'm needed. Izuku replied. He blocked a hit a moment later and watched the villain reel back in pain. So much of his costume is built with plated reinforcements that it's not unusual for people to hurt themselves trying to hit him, and Izuku's completely fine with that. He can't afford to be out of commission, but if his opponent breaks themselves because they didn't learn their lesion after the first hit, it's their own fault. Izuku skated to the side, dodging a hit, then used his jets to boost his jump and roundhouse house kick the villain. The armor made the kick feel more like getting beamed with a metal pipe than of being kicked by a 14-year-old, and the force launched the guy into the brick wall, successfully knocking him down and out of the fight. The impact was accompanied by a crack noise, and Izuku passively hoped it wasn't the guy's skull or spine, not that it really mattered to him in the end. He can't help that he hits hard when his modifications and gear combined with his already impressive strength gives him the equivalent of having a minor strength quirk. Maybe it's reckless to run around fighting villains when more often than not he ends up leaving at least one broken, but Izuku doesn't particularly care. He was raised and trained by his ex-villain father, so his morals are flexible at best, non-existent at worst, and his fighting style is ends justifies the means. Mercy is something you have to earn when dealing with him. When the fight was over, it was easy to see who took each side of the area. Izuku's side was much more of a wreck than Eraserhead's, with the defeated villains unmoving in varying levels of consciousness but all clearly in a lot of pain. Izuku himself was hardly even winded, let alone hurt. For as young as he is, he's quite terrifying in battle. He didn't get put on Japan's most wanted list for no reason. Well, it's been fun. See ya, Eraser, Izuku said after making sure Eraserhead was busy trying up his villains. They were unconscious but clearly weren't treated as violently as Izuku's and were in much less pain. Before Eraserhead could react, Izuku sped his way to the roof of the building he arrived from. He waved at Eraser from the roof as the pro glared up at him before skating away from the scene. Eraserhead sighed before picking up his communicator. Police dispatched to my location to arrest roughly 14 captured villains. Black Rabbit showed up and took down some of the villains, so medics are needed. I'm going after Black Rabbit. Izuku sat on top of the tallest building in the area, legs dangling over the edge. He liked looking out over everything. It's peaceful and he's too high to be spotted from the ground, so it's a safe place to rest. His stamina is absurd, but it's still important to rest now and then. Plus, Todoroki made him a peanut butter and jelly sandwich to have as a snack when he went out tonight, and he wasn't going to waste it. He doesn't really get it. It's been a long time since he's had someone attempting to take care of him without restricting him. Izuku will gladly take care of others, but he's not used to being cared for so obviously in return. He'd gotten defensive when Todoroki brought up how he overworked himself last night, thinking he was trying to get Izuku to quit, but all Todoroki did was remind him to remember to get enough sleep. Being Black Rabbit is important to him, and Todoroki seems to realize that. He just also wants Izuku to take care of himself. It's weird to have someone who both cares about him and is okay with him being Black Rabbit. Then Todoroki went and made him a sandwich for his patrol completely unprompted. Yeah, he burns a lot of calories doing this and should probably be packing snacks, but he never told Todoroki that. All the unprompted care makes him feel all warm and fuzzy inside. Like when Todoroki started trying to clean and cook for him. He wasn't especially good at it, but he was trying for Izuku. It was unprompted and confused Izuku greatly, since he wasn't expecting to receive any type of care back. His response had been to put in even more care and help Todoroki figured out the cooking and cleaning thing, which just ended up being bonding sessions. The care may be confusing to Izuku, but the sandwich is effing delicious, and he will have to thank Todoroki for it. He munches away happily on the rooftop, kicking his feet like a little kid. Mid-patrol breaks are always nice, but he hopes they'll continue to include yummy sandwiches from this point on. He's not sure how Todoroki got a banjay so right, but it's literally the best one he's ever had. Now, if only either of them had remembered to pack a drink, a can of juice was dangled in front of his face. Izuku looked up to see Eraserhead standing over him. With a pout, he took the can from the pro, and a moment later Eraserhead was sitting about an arm's length from him on the rooftop. Izuku decided to continue eating instead of closing his mouth guard. Eraserhead's heard his real voice before, so there's no point in disguising it when it's just the two of them and his communicator is off. Where you been, kid? It's been a while since I last saw you. Eraser asked casually, and Izuku huffed. So, I was beginning to worry about you. I usually see you once a week, or at least every other week. It's been over a month and I haven't seen a glimpse of you at all. Eraser explained. Izuku made an annoyed noise. You're not my dad. I don't have to check in with you if I don't want to. Eraserhead sighed, then was quiet a moment. I don't know what's got you in such a bad mood, but if you quit being in, but I have a pack of gummy bears on me with your name on it. Damn it, the man knows his weaknesses too well. With an exaggerated sigh, Izuku was forced to relent in the face of gummy candy. Phythian, hand them over. Eraserhead pulled a pack of gummy bears out of a pocket and handed them over to Izuku. To his credit, the package did have Black Rabbit written on it in Sharpie. Izuku shoved the last of the sandwich in his mouth and washed it down with some juice before starting on the candy, while Eraserhead watched him eat like he was starving. You going to be nicer now? That was the agreement. Izuku replied through a handful of gummies. Right, now have you been doing all right? Eraserhead asked. Pros have been seeing less of you recently, and I haven't seen any of you. It was a relief when you showed up today. I'd been worried something had happened. No, I'm fine. I'm just busy is all. Busy, huh? Does this have anything to do with the Todoroki kid that went missing? Straight to the point as always, isn't he? Izuku chewed his gummies instead of answering. Yeah, that's what I thought. How's the kid doing? I have no idea what you're talking about. Izuku tried. Eraserhead gave him a look. Come on, you know I won't turn you in. Now how's the kid? Izuku was quiet a moment. You say you won't turn me in, but you never said you wouldn't try to take him back. Eraserhead looked at Izuku. He couldn't see his eyes or really any of his face because his mask coved his whole head, and while the mouth guard was open, Eraserhead wasn't at the right angle to see past it. He didn't need to see Izuku's expression though. There was enough pain in his voice to know how the kid felt about this. And that would be a bad thing? His family misses him. I don't care. They don't deserve him. And if Endeavor goes near him again, I'll break him until he can't be put back together. Eraser leaned back imperceptibly. Usually he can speak to the person behind the mask, but sometimes, like just now, the Black Rabbit persona takes over. I know you don't like Endeavor, but that's no reason to keep Todoroki from going home. Eraser said carefully. While he's pretty sure the kid wouldn't hurt a fly when he's not in vigilante mode, he's teetering on switching back to being Black Rabbit out of agitation, and Black Rabbit has no issues with violence. One day he hopes to find out who taught this little kid to separate his personas so well, then he wants to punch them because this can't be good for the kid's mental health. I'm not keeping him. He can do whatever he wants and he doesn't want to go back to Endeavor. Izuku replied, and Eraser was glad to hear him be calmer. He doesn't. Eraser pried gently. Izuku let out an exasperated huff. No. Oh, Eraser, you should have heard him. I called Endeavor a villain once, and he nearly cried at hearing someone outside his family acknowledge how horrible Endeavor is. Eraser raised an eyebrow. This kid sounded so distressed and pained by this, and since the kid is speaking, not Black Rabbit, Eraser is sure it's the truth. Do you know why he reacted that way? Not exactly, but I can guess. He doesn't think I notice when he flinches at odd things or has weird reactions, but I do. He was scared of my tea kettle. Eraser knew what the kid was implying, and it almost made him want to assist Black Rabbit in beating the sheet out of Endeavor. The kid's body language looked so deflated, clearly upset. If it wouldn't have set their working relationship way back, he would have hugged the kid. He sure looked like he needed one, but being any closer than he is currently is off limits, and Eraser has worked hard to have Black Rabbit trust him enough to be this close without running or fighting. So, to clarify, you're positive he doesn't want to go home and you aren't holding him in any way? Eraser said carefully. The kid turned to look at him and after a moment clearly picked up what he was doing, giving an appreciative smile. He doesn't want to go back to Endeavor, and I have made it clear he is free to leave me whenever he feels like, be it permanent or temporary. I have provided what he needs to not get caught if and when he leaves free of change. He told me himself he never felt cared about until he woke up in my home. I will not harm or limit him, and he is enjoying finally being able to live without fear. He knows I'm Black Rabbit and is fine with that. I don't scare him. Erase nodded. All right, you have my word that I won't tell anyone. I will ask about him when I see you, but I won't say anything to anyone else. Thank you, Eraserhead. The smile on the kid's face was so bright and thankful it almost hurt to look at. Erase gave another nod. You take good care of him, got that? I promise. Now you better go finish your patrol or you won't be back before sunup. Eraser reminded, and the kid quickly devoured the rest of his gummies and drained the rest of the juice before getting to his feet. Actually, I'm going home early. Todoroki's worried I'm not getting enough sleep, and he made me a sandwich to eat if I got hungry on patrol, so the least I can do is listen. Really? Eraser asked. Izuku snapped his mouth guard closed, activating the voice distorter. See ya, Eraser. Thanks for being cool and continuing to realize I don't have to be your enemy. The kid waved and Eraser watched as he ran off. He shook his head. The kid. Eraserhead remembers when he first heard of him years ago. Everyone acted like Black Rabbit was the next biggest threat out there, smacking him on Japan's most wanted list and adding a bounty on his head. Then when Eraserhead actually met the guy, he was floored because Black Rabbit was talked about like he was a seasoned villain when in reality Black Rabbit was just a kid. Sure, he was a kid that was causing a lot of property damage and injury to the people he fights, but a kid nevertheless. It's doubtful he knew what he was doing back then, yet pros from all over were hunting a god-made child down like he's some type of evil feral animal, then wondering why he was becoming more violent and harder to catch. It must have felt like every person he was told his whole life he could trust had turned on him and now wanted to hurt him. Black Rabbit wasn't even a teenager back then, only being about that must have been terrifying for the poor kid. Eraserhead has a son that's Black Rabbit's age and couldn't understand how the other pros couldn't see this was a scared child who needed to be given guidance instead of being assaulted by trained adults with superpowers. Since no one else seemed to care, Eraserhead took it upon himself to be that guidance and has since been working to gain as much of Black Rabbit's trust as he can. When he started this, the poor kid was already wary, borderline terrified, of any pro after being attacked constantly. It took years to get where they currently are, but where they are is good. Black Rabbit knows he can trust him and lean on him if he needs it, and that gives Eraserhead a lot of room to help guide him. Is this risking his job? Probably. But Eraserhead would rather lose his job than let this poor kid be attacked and hunted forever. The world has unfairly and unjustly demonized him far too much for them to treat him fairly in any way, so being caught it will end badly for him, which is really unfair. He's not actually a bad kid, the real him is actually a big sweetheart, and Eraser won't allow him to be caught. Black Rabbit doesn't deserve to be punished, and it won't help him any. What he needs is a family who loves and supports him, a home where he feels safe, lots of hugs, and a shit ton of therapy. The kid's a mess, but he's a brilliant mess, and Eraser's going to remain fiercely protective of him. After a couple of months, the media coverage on Todoroki's missing persons case died down. They technically haven't officially closed the case, but the trail had gone cold ages ago, so there wasn't much hope and it has been swept to the back burners. He was basically considered gone for good at this point, and after airing something cheesy and depressing about Todoroki being gone but never forgotten, the media had moved on. Along with the media moving on also came the general public losing interest. So really, no one was actually looking for him anymore. It was absolute best. No one recognized him as Shouto Todoroki or even batted an eye at him on the street, except maybe to give a bewildered look at his terrible fashion choices. He passed Endeavor once in person and the man didn't even give him a moment's glacé. He wasn't recognized by his own father, and it was amazing. He was finally free, and for the first time in his life he could actually live and be happy, really truly happy. He was living his best life now, and it was all thanks to one amazing boy. Izuku Midoriya, Todoroki had only recently learned his last name, was the best person Todoroki has ever known. He had to be made of sunshine or something, there was no other way he could shine as bright as he does. And? He's a literal genius? Just look at his inventions and there's no room to doubt it. How is one boy allowed to be so bright, so cute, and so smart? All at the same time. And the best part? Izuku is Todoroki's best friend. Before they met he never thought he'd get to have any friends, let alone a best one. For once life is good. Currently, Todoroki was in the training room with Izuku pretending to be reading something on the cell phone Izuku made him. He built a phone for him. So amazing. In reality he was watching Izuku train. The boy goes hard, and seeing his moves makes Todoroki feel sorry for anyone on the receiving end of it. That punching bag is taking a beating and Izuku doesn't even have any gear on. Todoroki likes watching him train and does it often for multiple reasons. For one, It's impressive as F-. Izuku knows what he's doing and has built some serious power through diligence and determination. It's no mystery as to why he's got so much raw strength. For two, they like spending time together, and even if Todoroki mostly just sits and watches, it still counts as hanging out. It's nicer to do different things in the same room than do their own thing in separate rooms. And for three, if Todoroki's there, he can make sure there's water and snacks. Izuku will often forget to take care of himself, but he's beginning to do better with Todoroki around. He seems to hate worrying Todoroki more than anything. Izuku hit the punching bag again, and the seam split with a loud ripping noise. The thing was on its last legs to begin with, but now stuffing was spilling out onto the padded floor. Any type of contact made the spillage worse, so the thing was useless now. Izuku looked at it while he calmed down from the exercise, and Todoroki used this as an excuse, quit pretending to look at his phone. Wow. That's wrecked. Todoroki commented. Izuku laughed. I'll have to change it with a good one from storage. You can do that later. Come sit with me. You lonely? Izuku teased. Todoroki rolled his eyes. I'm not lonely, but you do need to take a break. Now get over here and eat something. Fine, fine. Izuku stretched casually before walking over to where Todoroki was sitting. He plopped down across from him. Thank you. Here. Todoroki tossed Izuku a water bottle after chilling it in his right hand. Izuku took big gulps from it. Thanks, Roki, you're the best. You'd be a mess without me. Izuku laughed at Todoroki's musing. You're not wrong. On an unrelated note, you think after the break you might want to start training? You know I'll be there to help you. I probably should. Todoroki admitted. It's been nice just having a normal life, but I still want to be a hero. Only working out a couple days a week isn't going to cut it. Exactly. Izuku grinned. I'll teach you just like my dad taught me, and you'll make progress in no time. Plus, since this was originally his base, everything is fireproof, so we can quirk train your left side without destroying anything. Todoroki looked at his friend and had to remind himself, yet again, how different their fathers were. Izuku never really mentioned his mom, but he loved talking about his dad. They were clearly very close, and it gave Todoroki a new perspective to think about. He may have been a villain, but he clearly loved his family. Todoroki was a little jealous, honestly. Did your dad burn things often? You have no idea. Izuku said fondly. If he whistled? Fire. He laughed too hard? Fire. Coughed? Fire. They were only small licks of flame, basic quirk discharge, but he still had to carry around a pocket-sized fire extinguisher. Todoroki laughed at the image of the fearsome villain Black Dragon carrying around a miniature fire extinguisher. Black Dragon was the one to teach you how to fight, right? You bet. Izuku confirmed. My style is built off his. Also, his name was Hisashi, so you don't have to keep using his villain name. Right. Well, we both know you can kick my butt. Sure, I've been training my whole life, but I've been watching you, and you've got to be goddamn terrifying in battle. Todoroki mused. Izuku smiled. I promise I won't go Black Rabbit on you. I'm going to find what you need and help you build your way to improvement. That includes helping with your fire. I want you at least comfortable enough to use it by the time high school entrance exams roll around. That gives us roughly a year from now, give or take. Think you could handle starting after this break? Todoroki considered for a minute. On one hand, he knew Izuku was right. He needed to keep up with training or he'd fall way behind, and he needs to get comfortable with his fire sooner than later. He won't be getting into any school on recommendation now that he's no longer Endeavor's son, so he'll be competing with hundreds of other kids for the limited open spots. He'll need everything he's got for that, especially since UA is still his first choice. On the other hand, it's a bit intimidating. He wants to start again, he does, but he's afraid of it being like how training was growing up, where it was always too hard and went on for too long, where nothing was ever good enough. Logically, he knows Izuku would never do that to him. He's all about positive encouragement and keeping goals high but reachable while also knowing there's such thing as too much. If anyone can train him successfully without making him miserable, it's Izuku, but that doesn't mean he's not still nervous about it. But let's start small. Todoroki finally agreed. Izuku beamed. Awesome. I just want to test where you are today anyway. I can make a better plan if I have a starting point, and if things get too much or you want to stop for any reason, we will. That goes for any time we do this. Really? We can stop if I want to? No questions asked. Todoroki almost didn't believe it. Of course. Izuku assured. Mind and body are two sides of the same coin. When things feel too hard or it gets to be too much, it's always best to take a break. I'm sure you've got baggage from the flaming trash can, but I'm here to help you work through it. Todoroki gave Izuku a thankful look, trying not to get teared up over this. Thank you. You're the best. I'll always be there to support you, Roki. You can lean on me whenever you need it. Izuku replied with a big grin. Todoroki nodded with a much more subdued but equally happy smile. Every day he finds another reason to be thankful for Izuku being in his life. He's been getting more emotional about things more often now too, and he blames Izuku for giving him a life where he's safe to feel things again. Endeavor thought showing emotion was weakness, but Izuku is the most emotional and animated person Todoroki's ever met, and it makes him feel safer expressing himself. He'll probably never reach Izuku's level of expressive. His smile will never be as big and bright as the sun like Izuku's is. Todoroki honestly doubts anyone could shine as brightly as Izuku does. Still, he noticeably expressing himself more and more as time goes on. It's new and a little scary, both expressing what he's feeling and experiencing the emotions themselves, but it's not a bad thing, and Izuku is always happy to help him work things out without judgment. Todoroki trusts Izuku more than he's ever trusted anyone. He'd trust Izuku with his life. He knows Izuku will listen if he wants or needs to stop, just like he said he would, and won't question him as to why, but will still be there if Todoroki does want to talk about it. He's cried in Izuku's arms before over his issues. It was embarrassing, but Izuku didn't think less of him for it and was more than happy to be something stable and comforting to hold on to. That's why he'll let Izuku train him. After they ate and had their break, Izuku focused the rest of their time on finding where Todoroki was training wise. When he wasn't directing or giving encouragement to Todoroki, he was mumbling about where to begin with improvement. Todoroki takes comfort in the fact that Izuku is clearly putting his genius mind to work here to come up with the best possible way to proceed. After extensive tests and demonstrations, enough for Todoroki to be sweaty and Izuku to have miles of data, Izuku said to give him a few days to come up with a plan for him. He did want Todoroki to work out every day with him though, at least until he finished his training plan. Usually Todoroki works out when Izuku's working in his workshop, aka getting covered in dirt and grease, so it's been more of a private thing over the time he's been here. Still, if Izuku's asking him to, there's probably a good reason, so Todoroki agreed to. By the time Todoroki walked in the next day for a workout, Izuku had replaced the broken punching bag with a new one, taking the other one elsewhere to reuse what materials he can from it. Todoroki had brought snacks and drinks as usual and set them where he normally sits before walking over to Izuku. He was in workout clothes this time, ready to do this with his best friend. Izuku beamed at him. Okay, I know you aren't at my level or anything strength-wise, and that's alright. It is one of the things I want to work on with you though. My strength? Todoroki asked. Yup. Izuku nodded. Your quirk is strong, but you can't just rely on that alone. I'm going to help you build up more physical strength and stamina with our workouts. Then in training I'll teach you close combat. You're really serious about this, huh? Yeah, this isn't just about being a hero, it's also about protecting yourself. It's illegal for you to use your quirk in public without a license, but using hand-to-hand combat when defending yourself or another isn't, as long as you didn't instigate the fight. Izuku explained. Todoroki nodded. Alright, what's first then? First part of every workout is proper stretching. Just follow my directions and try to keep up. I know you'll do great. Todoroki was honestly a bit embarrassed. Izuku was so in tune with his routine already, while Todoroki hasn't been keeping up with his like he should. He has a lot of catch-up to do, not that Izuku wasn't already leagues ahead of him to begin with. He's got some serious discipline, and his training and workout are simply part of his daily routine. His routine is so ingrained into his habits Todoroki doubts he's missed a daily workout or training session in years, and it shows. This short, 14-year-old boy could probably break Todoroki clean in two if he wanted to. Regardless of Todoroki's embarrassment with how far behind he is, Izuku continued to be helpful and supportive. That was a good thing since Izuku's workout was much different than what Todoroki's had been, so he was not used to this at all. Todoroki's workout was to keep him in good shape so he could use his quirk effectively. Sure, it made him physically stronger than your average person, but physical strength was more of a side effect than a goal. Izuku's workout, on the other hand, was meant to build strength and increase stamina while keeping his body in the right shape and health to handle his training. Basically, Todoroki was learning something entirely new and he was going to be sore as F afterwards. Izuku was clearly starting him at the bottom rung, aware he's not used to this type of workout. He didn't expect anything more from him than what he could manage and was extremely encouraging, always ready to help or direct. Todoroki was so thankful for his friend. Working with Izuku, there was no yelling, no talking down to him, no, that's not good enough, no bar too high for him to ever reach. There was encouragement, there were breaks, expectations were reasonable. If he couldn't reach a goal, Izuku would assure him that it was okay. He did his best, and that's what's important. They can readjust goals to be more reasonable and work to build up to being able to go farther. There was no shame in not reaching a goal today as long as you tried your best and don't give up altogether. Progress has to be taken at the pace you can handle. Just keep going at your pace and you'll improve and reach your goals. If this is the treatment Todoroki should be expecting from having Izuku as his teacher, he may cry. It's so much better than when he was still forced to train under Endeavor. He didn't quite meet all the goals Izuku set for him today, but for once he doesn't feel like shit about it. He actually feels good about what he managed to do. Izuku radiates so much positive energy and so much pride in everything Todoroki did manage, it's hard to feel bad about himself. Izuku's proud of him. Izuku, I treat crates that weigh over 100 pounds like they're as light as a handful of feathers. Midoriya is proud of him. Maybe, just maybe, that means he should be proud of himself too. Todoroki rested while Izuku finished his workout. He had more to his than Todoroki did, which made a lot of sense given how long he's been doing this and the progress he's clearly made. Todoroki watched him while using his quirk to cool himself off. He was already sweaty and sore, but watching Izuku keep going and work up more of a sweat was making him feel even more hot and exhausted. Finally, Izuku tapped out and chugged a water bottle before collapsing on his back next to Todoroki. Hey Iceman, can you send a chill my way? I'm melting here. Todoroki snorted and rolled his eyes with an amused smile. He put his right hand on Izuku's forehead and used his quirk to bring on the chill. Better? He asked. Izuku gave a pleased sigh. Much. They relaxed in comfortable silence for a while as they rested and cooled off, Todoroki eventually moving his hand to Izuku's hair. Izuku let him mess with the wild curls on top and run his fingers over the soft and fuzzy shaved sides. The green was natural, not a dye, and so soft. Absently, Todoroki wonders what Izuku would look like if he let his hair grow out instead of keeping the undercut. How fluffy would it get? Would he look like a green dandelion? Having fun there? Izuku asked in clear amusement, enjoying the feeling of the hand running through his hair. Todoroki froze and had a slight panic, suddenly realizing how long he's been playing with Izuku's hair. I'm sorry. I can, stop if you want. Nah, you're fine. I like affection. It's nice. Izuku assured lazily. Todoroki hesitantly started playing with Izuku's hair again. It was just so soft. How could he resist? Plus, he liked the contact. He never got a lot of affection growing up. It's doubtful Endeavor knows what affection or love even is. Izuku, however, had a very loving father growing up. His life was probably full of hugs and affection and all the loving physical contact Todoroki was denied. Hisashi isn't around anymore, so it's probably been a long time since he's had that. Well, Todoroki knows he's definitely touch-starved, but he's also been terrified of making any kind of first move when it comes to physical contact. He doesn't know what's too much or what Izuku's okay with, and the last thing he wants is to make things weird between them. Izuku gives him some contact, sure. He's not afraid of taking his hand or giving him a pat on the shoulder, and when they go out together sometimes he'll throw his arm around him or even hang onto Todoroki's arm. Maybe Izuku is touch-starved too. He's holding back because he's waiting for Todoroki to tell him what he wants. That sounds like something he'd do. He's always so conscious of Todoroki's comfort. He had a small freak out over Izuku's tea kettle, and by the next day the kettle had disappeared and there was a brand new Keurig hot drink machine on the counter. He didn't ask for that. Izuku just decided that he'd rather just buy a fancy instant drink maker than keep around something that clearly triggers Todoroki. Todoroki should maybe try to be more open to affection. Izuku said he likes it so it won't be weird, right? Oh god, why is Todoroki so nervous? He's never wanted to be affectionate with anyone before, but he wants to be with Izuku. He feels safe with Izuku and wants to be close to him. He doesn't have a crush on Izuku or anything like that, right? But they're best friends. Friends can be affectionate with each other, can't they? Todoroki almost got the nerve to say something about it but had to hold back a laugh instead when he looked at Izuku. Are you pretending to be asleep? He asked and tapped Izuku on the nose, shattering the already failing ruse by making him laugh. You seemed deep in thought. I'd thought I'd let you work out whatever was on your mind in peace. I was just wondering about how you said you like affection, but you don't really act like it. Todoroki replied, deciding to bring it up while the subject was still remotely fresh. Izuku shrugged, still lying on the floor. I'm a hugger and you never really reached out, so I didn't think you wanted me hanging off you too much. There was a moment of silence where Todoroki nervously tried to figure out how to articulate what he wanted to say. I was never really allowed affection of any kind. I don't really know how to reach out as you put it. I don't know what's, normal. What if I make things weird? Todoroki worried. Being open is still a work in progress for him, but Izuku has established himself as safe, understanding, and non-judgmental, so it's easier to open up to him. Why would it be weird? I don't know. I just worry. I don't want to do anything that makes you not want to keep being my best friend. You've got nothing to worry about, Roki. I'm not scared off that easily. So, do you want me to be more openly affectionate? See how you like it. Izuku asked. Todoroki hesitantly nodded. Yeah, that sounds good. Then we'll do that. Izuku decided. Anything else on your mind? You should grow out your hair. Izuku actually laughed at that one. But if my hair is any longer, I'll have a hard time putting on my mask. Plus, it's not tameable at all. Do you know how many brushes have sacrificed their lives trying to get through that bushy disaster? You just don't want to look like a green dandelion. Coward. Todoroki teased. You wouldn't last a day with hair as curly as mine, Mr. My hair is straight and silky smooth. Todoroki laughed at that, barely stopping himself from blurting out his hair was the only straight thing about him. He's always known he's gay, but he's not ready for anyone else to know, even wonderful, amazing Izuku, who he knows would never judge him. So, for now, he'll hold back the gay jokes. He's feeling more confident as time goes on though, so maybe someday soon he can finally share that important part of himself. Todoroki smiled. He's so happy here. What are you making now? Todoroki asked as he watched Izuku cut a piece from what used to be the punching bag he'd broken. After roughly 2 months of reusing any salvageable parts of the bag, there wasn't a whole lot of it left. Well, I made guards already and this material is nice and tough, so I was thinking I'd use what's left to make some gloves. Izuku explained. It is fireproof, so it's best to not waste it. Wouldn't it be hard to move your fingers in gloves made from that? Yeah, I'd normally just use it to overlay the palm of the glove for added padding and stuff. I'm thinking fingerless gloves today though. I can just wrap my fingers in something heat-resistant. Izuku said. Todoroki raised an eyebrow at him. Is there a specific situation you're making these for? It doesn't seem like something Black Rabbit would use. Well, tomorrow I have to pass by the area I used to live in and they're a person I need to be prepared to fight if I see. And I thought Black Rabbit wasn't scared of anything? Todoroki teased. At that Izuku pouted. I'm not scared. Not exactly, it's this guy hates me. His name's Katsuki Bakugo, but I call him the number 1 BSRD, which doesn't really help things. How could anyone hate you? You're made of sunshine. Todoroki objected. Izuku's cheeks got a little red at that and he giggled a bit, making Todoroki smile. Thank you, Roki, but I've known this boy since preschool. He's always had it out for me and probably always will. But you're the best. How could anyone hate you? Well, he was naturally good at things and got a powerful quirk, so he thought he was better than everyone. Sure, nothing was ever difficult for me either, but I didn't actually put effort into things, so he always came in first at everything. When I did start putting effort into things though, I immediately left him in the dust. I'm quirkless, I'm not supposed to be special like him, so I think he took all the positive attention I got and achievements I made as a personal attack. He challenges me to a fight every time he sees me. You win the fights, right? Todoroki asked. Izuku nodded. Oh yeah, easily, but fighting is the only way he can challenge me anymore, so that's what he does. Anymore? Todoroki raised an eyebrow. He used to try to beat me in academics too, but after my dad was taken I decided to finish school early. I consume knowledge like candy, so I was out of middle school by age 11. Izuku explained. That analogy is a lot more terrifying now that I've seen you eat candy. I fear for anyone who gets between you and chocolate. Todoroki commented. Izuku laughed sheepishly. Yeah, that's fair. I love candy. Eraserhead thinks he won me over by proving he's safe, but really it's the fancy but candy he brings me. I looked the brand up. He has to go to a gourmet shop in Tokyo to get it. Todoroki tried not to laugh but didn't quite succeed. Eraserhead would look so out of place in a fancy candy shop. Next time we go to the Meowfie shop and he's there, that image is going to pop into my head and I'm going to just lose it. He knows what a lot of off-duty pros look like now thanks to Izuku, including Eraserhead. Izuku looked amused by Todoroki's statement. Don't worry, if you start dying I'll cover for you. Thanks Izuku. When you said you finished early, does that mean you finished high school too? You did know your way around the online school you signed me up for really well. Todoroki asked curiously. Izuku had signed him up for online classes since he had to finish middle school before he could go to high school. UA won't let anyone under 15 in, I checked. Nowadays I just take advanced online classes for fun. Izuku replied, then accidentally stuck himself with the needle he was using to sew the gloves. Todoroki smiled to himself, watching in amusement as Izuku Mumble scolded the needle before getting back to work on the gloves. He hadn't realized Izuku still wanted to get into UA, but it would be really fun if they both got in. So why are you going to that area anyway? Todoroki asked, wondering what could be so important that it would make Izuku-chan's having to fight while not Black Rabbit. I ordered lab supplies from a store around there and they should have it ready for pickup by 3 p.m. tomorrow. Izuku explained, choosing to not specify what exactly he meant by lab supplies. Todoroki nodded, accepting the explanation at face value. Do you want me to come with you? Do you want to come with me? I could use the extra hands. I definitely want to. Todoroki confirmed. You're the best. Izuku smiled. Now, I made one glove. Do you want to learn how to do this while I sew the other? Yes. Izuku grinned brightly, then began showing Todoroki the process of making the gloves. He spends a lot of time in his workshop and often works there alone. However, if he's doing modifications, upgrades, or smaller projects, Todoroki will sit on his workbench and give him his undivided attention while he works on and talks about his project, or sometimes they just talk in general. Todoroki isn't accustomed to the grime and grease that comes with bigger and more experimental projects though, so he isn't normally present for those. That's fine by Izuku. Todoroki is legitimately interested in what he's doing and will listen to him for hours, even asking questions about his projects. Questions are the best. That's already more than he could have ever asked for. He's not going to expect Todoroki to be present for the absolutely filthy stuff too. Izuku doesn't mind the layers of grease he acquires, but not everyone is like that, and that's okay too. The attention Todoroki gives him is the most genuine thing Izuku's ever experienced, and it means so very much to him. He has a companion who stays because they want to, because they like him, and like being around him. He no longer feels alone, and it's amazing. Todoroki is the best friend he's ever had, and he would do anything for him. The next day they went out together, both with newly made gloves, and got lunch before heading over to get Izuku's order. They chatted the whole way, just having a great time. Todoroki has always liked going on errands with Izuku. They were early enough to avoid any middle schoolers on the way over, Izuku relief showing this is not normally the case. But depending how long this takes, they may not be so lucky on the way back. Izuku did all of the talking and interactions when they were picking up his order while Todoroki just stood by and watched. This place was a bit seedy by Todoroki's standards and was definitely more of a warehouse than a store of any kind, but he said nothing about it. The people were nice to them and Izuku wouldn't have let him come if this venture was going to hurt or incriminate him. At this point, he's aware Izuku sometimes uses contacts from Hisashi's little black book to get things he needs. Without a parent around, it can't really be helped that he has to use alternate methods for certain things. But Izuku is smart. He knows how to worm his ways around things like laws and regulation, be it through loopholes in the fine print or forging the documentation he needs to make what he's doing legal. He knows what he's doing. When they got the lab supplies, Todoroki realized what Izuku meant by needing extra hands. He had thought the backpacks Izuku made them bring were to help them blend in with the students being dismissed, even though they weren't wearing uniforms or anything. Instead, Izuku packed them full of stuff from his order, trying to make everything as easy to carry as possible. Todoroki's was stuffed full of things that weren't fragile, bags and cartons of powders, safety gear, and such. It was so well packed it was practically solid. You could punch it and nothing would budge or break. Izuku's backpack was already modified for the purpose of carrying the fragile stuff. Anything can happen between here and home, and having this stuff break would be disastrous, so Izuku's backpack is designed to allow it to be tossed around without disrupting the contents. What didn't fit in the backpacks was already stored in metal containers with handles that they can just carry. That's how Todoroki found himself holding an unmarked container of liquid nitrogen while pretending it's not weird that two 14-year-olds were carrying dangerous chemicals. Excuse him, lab supplies, home in broad daylight. Not wanting to go too close to the school with the supplies, they take a detour. It's nice out, so it's no big deal if they take a little longer to get home than if they took the direct route. Izuku was just telling Todoroki about why they just have to pour some of the liquid nitrogen on marshmallows sometime while passing under a bridge when he senses something. He clamps his mouth shut and pushes Todoroki out of way right before a slime villain shows up and engulfs him. You'll make a great disguise. Quit struggling, it's make it easier for both of us. The villain said, too focused on trying to invade Izuku to notice Todoroki, who was very overwhelmed a few feet away. Izuku pretty much just saved his life with his quick senses, but now he's the one in danger instead. He watches as Izuku attempts to fight back, clawing at the sludge. What does he do? What does he do? He has to help, but how? There aren't any heroes around. There isn't anyone around. Todoroki looks around for anything to help and sees nothing until the liquid nitrogen. He doesn't know the properties of it, but Izuku said it'll freeze anything. He doesn't know how to open the container though, so he can't use it to freeze the villain. Wait. He doesn't need the chemical, has his own freeze. Why didn't he think of that first? He doesn't speak, not wanting to make the villain realize he's there, and simply gets in position. With precision, he sets his right foot forward and sends ice across the ground to the villain and concentrates to make sure he doesn't freeze Izuku along with the sludge. The ice is thick enough to contain, but he made sure it wasn't so thick Izuku couldn't break out of it. He'll free any openings that are made. Before anything else could happen though, they were interrupted. Smash! A huge gust of wind was produced, completely blowing the sludge villain both out of its icy casing and away. Todoroki barely had the time to freeze his and Izuku's feet to the ground to keep them from also being blown away. When it was over, Todoroki used his left side to thaw himself while Izuku simply used his superior strength to force the ice to break, only to find Todoroki clinging to him the moment they were both free. Hey, you kids all right there? Not hurt, are you? They both looked over, only now remembering someone showed up to save them. That person ended up being All Might himself. Under different circumstances, Todoroki might have asked for an autograph, but, considering he almost lost his friend for good, letting go of Izuku wasn't an option right now. He needed the reassurance that Izuku was still there and alive more than wanted the #1 hero's signature. My buddy is shook up, but otherwise we're fine. Villain got away though. Izuku replied for both of them, not even slightly shaken up by what just happened. Glad to hear it. Now I should get going. All Might replied. Before he could go, Izuku stopped him with a shout. Wait. Yes, my boy? Can I get your autograph real quick? Izuku pulled a notepad and a marker out of one of his many pockets and held them up. All Might looked just a little antsy, but there wasn't any good reason he could say no to a little autograph for a fan who just got attacked. Sure thing. All Might came over and took the marker and notepad to sign. Also, I have a question, Izuku said while he had the guy trapped. And what would that be, my boy? All Might asked. Izuku tensed slightly, though otherwise he remained calm and pleasant. Did you really have a hand in taking down Black Dragon almost 5 years ago? Not even Todoroki was expecting Izuku to say that. All Might coughed into his hand and pretended he didn't just cough up some blood. Well, that case is a bit confidential. I can't tell you details. I'm not asking for details. I just want to know if you were involved. No more, no less. A scary aura was beginning to come off on Izuku the longer the question wasn't answered. All Might, just needing to get out of there as soon as possible, handed back the notepad and marker. Yes, I was involved. A lot of heroes were. It was tough, but you can rest easy, no Black Dragon is no longer a threat. Izuku's mouth was a flat line, but he forced a smile back on his face after a short moment, though this smile lacked the usual sunshine. Thanks for everything, All Might. Have a nice day. Take care, kids. All Might left with one big jump, and the fake smile left Izuku's face. He broke away from his friend and sat on the pavement while doing breathing exercises to try and calm down. Todoroki just kind of hovered as close as he dared. Izuku is a sweet boy and normally very even-tempered, but when he does get angry, the only solution is to back off. Anger brings out Black Rabbit. You don't want to mess with Black Rabbit. Todoroki isn't scared of him by any means. In fact, Izuku handles his anger quite constructively and doesn't strike out if you don't give him a good reason to, but he needs personal space if he's going to calm down. So as much as Todoroki still wants to be as close to Izuku as possible, being right up against him will just make things worse. He didn't have to wait long, as after about 5 minutes Izuku's shoulders relaxed and the tension left his body. Then another minute later he got back on his feet. Okay, let's go. Are you going to be okay? Todoroki asked quietly, quickly linking their arms so he can feel Izuku is still there as they walked. Oh, I'll be fine, Izuku assured. I already pretty much knew he was involved. This was just a confirmation. I was kinda hoping he'd say no so I could pretend, but I'd probably have been more sad if he'd lied. Was the autograph just a ploy to ask him about it then? Actually, I just got the signature for you. I know you think All Might's pretty cool. And before you ask, I don't mind if he's your favorite hero. He's done plenty to earn being anyone's favorite, and it's not like I hate him or anything. Todoroki raised an eyebrow. You really have nothing against him? Izuku shrugged. I mean, he was just doing his job as a hero, and we always knew it would happen eventually. It was hard for me, sure, but Dad was a very high-profile villain and they didn't kill him, so I don't see a reason to go out of my way to hate anyone. Dislike maybe, but not hate. That's immature of you, Todoroki said, not really getting how Izuku can be so calm about his dad being taken away from him when he sounded like such an amazing person, past villainy aside. Izuku sighed. Being arrested is what he wanted, Roki. He didn't want it to happen until I was older, but he wanted to answer for the things he did, and I can't hate the heroes involved while knowing that. Todoroki nodded before asking another question to help him not have a panic attack over everything that just happened. It'll probably happen eventually, but if he stays distracted he can put it off. So he's not dead, just arrested then? You were always pretty vague about what exactly happened. Izuku glanced at his friend, noticing how Todoroki clung to him and kept glancing around like he's on edge still. Yeah, he's in Tartarus. I'd love to visit, but he made DM ensure I wouldn't get connected to him in any way, and they're not going to let some random kid visit a villain. Izuku cut off there to allow Todoroki more questions to distract himself with. Todoroki took the bait gladly. Why'd he do that? Without him you had no parents. He was protecting my future. No one would adopt the quirkless son of a villain, and anything I do would automatically be tainted by his name. It was already going to be harder for me to become a hero than it was for others. He didn't want to add an extra layer of impossible. Todoroki looked at Izuku for a moment. Well, for the record, I think your dad's pretty cool. He raised you after all, and you're the best person I know. Plus, I admire that he turned his life around for the people he loved and even wanted to own up to his actions. Not a lot of people would do that. The smile Izuku gave him was blinding, and he actually stopped them momentarily and gave Todoroki a tight but brief hug. Thank you, Roki. That actually means a lot to me. It hurts to hear people talk about him like he's evil incarnate. Like, I know he's done bad things, but he was still my dad and loved me more than anything. Don't worry. I refuse to believe he was truly evil if he could raise anyone as amazing and compassionate as you. Izuku let a smile settle on his face. You're my best friend, Roki. I hope you know that. Todoroki smiled back. You're my best friend too. They walked together, and Izuku tried to subtly keep Todoroki from thinking about the sludge incident at least until they were home and he could walk his friend through it. He's pretty sure that was Todoroki's first real villain encounter, if you don't count Endeavor as a villain, and the first time is always the hardest. It'll get easier to handle once he's in hero school and is getting real training for that type of thing. For now, he's just a citizen who was almost attacked and, judging by his clinging, probably thought he was about to lose Izuku for real. Izuku wasn't that worried. He's always packing gear, so if Todoroki hadn't acted and All Might hadn't shown up, he would have still found a way out. After almost 5 years of vigilante work, he knows how to get himself out of most situations. Now, Todoroki's feelings are valid. It was scary, but everything worked out. Everything is fine and it will stay fine. He will make sure Todoroki knows that. Before they could get all the way home, they encountered a crowd. Izuku's vigilante senses kicked in, and going closer proved them correct. It was the sludge villain again, attacking the number 1 BSTRD in Izuku's life while at least 5 pros stood by doing absolutely nothing. He hates doing vigilante shit in the daytime, but if 5 goddamn pros aren't even going to do their goddamn job while a child is in danger, then Izuku's got no choice but to teach them a thing or two. Everyone around was too distracted by the scene to notice him and Todoroki in the back. That's good. Izuku handed his metal canister over to Todoroki after unhooking the other boy from him. Todoroki gave him a questioning look, and he quickly whispered in Todoroki's ear that he's going to do something, he'll be quick, and that he'll meet him a few blocks down the way afterwards. He winked at Todoroki before slipping away unnoticed by anyone else. After slipping into a dark corner, he took his mask and a collapsible mouth guard from one of his pockets, putting them on before slipping on his freeze spray and activating the jets in his shoes. It's not much, but it'll do for this. His shirt is plain white and he's wearing cargo shorts and red sneaker you can buy at any department store in Japan, and at least 3 other people in the crowd were wearing. With his face and hair covered, there's nothing identifiable about him. Time to embarrass some pros on live TV. Izuku zoomed out on his jets and onto the scene, purposely slowing just enough to clearly be seen making finger guns at the camera held by one of the people from the news station reporting live on the scene. He raised his arms up, zooming around in front of the confused crowd and already fuming pros, and started speaking loudly and cheerfully through the voice changer. No need to fear, everyone's favorite vigilante, Black Rabbit, is here to save the day since these pros seem to not feel like doing their jobs. Izuku used his jets to high jump over a pro who tried to grab him. Hey now, you don't have a right to try and catch me when you won't even try and save a kid being attacked by a villain. But don't worry, I'm not trying to steal your job. I like saving people so much I do it every night for free. A few more dodges and zooms, capturing everyone's attention completely by showing off his skills. Now I don't normally do daytime work, but I could not help a kid in trouble, especially when the heroes don't feel like doing their jobs. Izuku zoomed past the pros, with all cameras trained solely on him now, and towards the villain. Number 1 BSRD, Katsuki Bakugo, glared at him, lighting off even more explosions. Being rescued by a vigilante is going to make him even angrier, but Izuku plans to be long gone before he can retaliate. A villain made of sludge? I have just the thing for that. I guess that makes me more prepared than a hero. But even if I wasn't well equipped, I'd think of something instead of just standing around. Oopsie, did I just call you guys out for not doing your jobs again? I think I did. Izuku finished in a sing-song tone and got ready to fire, changing the spray density to make it last longer than 30 seconds. He looked at Bakugo. Close your eyes, kid. This won't hurt you, but it is an irritant. With that warning, he sped in circles around the villain, spraying it with his freezer spray. After the first circle, it and Bakugo were thinly frozen. He took this chance to grab Bakugo, breaking him from the villain. He left the already thawing teen with a hero before going back and spraying the villain for a solid 2 minutes, going around in very fast circles. Once done, he had the villain in a thick freeze that should last long enough for him to be contained. With that, he sped back to the front and did a bow for the audience, ignoring Bakugo, who was already thawed and on the verge of a tantrum. And that's how you rescue a teen from a sludge villain. Don't worry, folk, the freezing spray is cold but otherwise harmless. There will be no lasting health effects or damage. Sludgy over there will thaw in about 15 minutes, so I'd get containing if I were you. He gave one last bow and blew a kiss to the camera. That's all, folks. If anyone asks, remember your friendly neighborhood black rabbits saved the day. See ya. With that, he sped off down the alley, getting away once again. The pros begrudgingly started clean up and containment. If they tried to catch Black Rabbit now, it'll look bad on them since the kid did just save the day on live TV. The crowd of people were buzzing with how cool this Black Rabbit guy was. He was clearly well trained, so the audience saw him as a professional, not a reckless kid. He certainly knew how to put on a good show too, which only made the crowd like him more. Most civilians had never heard of Black Rabbit before now, but there were one or two in the current audience that could be heard speaking fondly of him from having previous experience with him. He always leaves good impressions with the civilians he interacts with, which will make casting him in a negative light harder. It's safe to say a lot of people will be talking about him now with the news feed, and many people had also been filming with their phones, so he's sure to be all over the internet by day's end. It's safe to say this will be a PR nightmare. All Might stood in the crowd in his powered-down form. He would have helped, but he was out of time with his quirk now. He'd actually had never heard of Black Rabbit until now, since he doesn't normally deal with vigilantes. Plus, Black Rabbit has never been in his area. Vigilante or not, he's got a hero's spirit. He couldn't stand around when no one was acting, even though he had clearly not been out today to go crime fight. It makes him feel ashamed of himself for standing around instead of pushing himself to do something. He's a hero de minute, the #1 hero. He could learn a thing or two from that kid. All Might stood there considering for a second before he noticed who was standing next to him. It was one of those kids he rescued earlier, the freaked out one with sherbet orange hair. He wasn't freaked out anymore, it seems, and was now starry-eyed over what had just happened. "Excuse me, my boy," All Might said, getting the kid's attention. "Can I help you, sir?" The kid asked politely after turning to face him. "Forgive me if I'm intruding, but I just wanted to ask if you knew anything about this Black Rabbit. I'm afraid I've never heard of him, but you seem quite excited." "Yeah. Black Rabbit's awesome, but he kinda saved my life, so it's only natural to think that, I guess," the kid explained. "He was so kind to me. He could have just left after saving me, but he stayed to talk me down from a panic attack and didn't leave until he was sure I was okay. I'm sure he didn't mean any harm here. He just couldn't stand the pros doing nothing. I promise he's not a bad guy, no matter what other heroes say." All Might considered this for a moment. "You seem pretty confident about knowing what the pros think about him." The boy shrugged. "Just asking a pro about him makes their opinion pretty obvious. I don't know what their vendetta is against Black Rabbit, but I personally think they're just mad he calls them out for not doing their job and stealing their thunder. So this isn't the first time he's done something like this then. Look, it's getting late, so I gotta go. If you want to know more, there's a bunch of forums about him online. I suggest the ones that don't allow pros to participate in the discussion. They're less biased." "Right, of course, sorry for keeping you." Todoroki ran down the street to the corner Izuku said to meet him at, which was a decent distance away. He's gone pretty far down the Black Rabbit research rabbit hole, no pun intended, at this point, so he's seen all the available footage of him doing his vigilante thing, but this was the first time watching him in person. At least that he remembers. It's crazy how skilled and competent he is. Izuku is the godmed coolest. Still, now that the distraction was over, Todoroki's panic was coming back. He thought it was gone, but apparently not. Until he sees Izuku, he doesn't know if he actually got away all right or if he got hurt. He knows it's pretty irrational to think Izuku wasn't careful, but he still has emotions over Izuku being attacked the first time. Now there's this too, and it's a bit much. It's not easy to get over your best friend almost getting murdered in front of you, okay? He's going to need an actual chance to process that, preferable not in public. When the street corner came in sight, he was relieved to see Izuku standing there waiting for him. Before Izuku could even greet him, he had set the canisters down and hugged the shorter boy. "You're okay?" Izuku patted him on the back. "Not a scratch on me, don't worry." "But if I don't worry about you, who will?" Todoroki teased. "Eraserhead probably." Todoroki chuckled at that. "Yeah, but he doesn't see half the sheet you get up to. I, on the other hand, have front row seats." Okay, point made." Izuku smiled. "Let's get home, I'm tired of smelling like sludge villain." Todoroki nods and they walk home together with their canisters of chemical they're probably not old enough to have purchased. Izuku showed Todoroki to his lab, which was exceptionally well hidden, so they could unload the lab supplies. After it was all put away they left and Izuku told Todoroki not to go in there without permission and never alone. His experiments can get dangerous and Todoroki doesn't know near enough chemistry to stay safe in there. Izuku went and took a much-needed shower while Todoroki changed into more comfortable clothes and wiped off the makeup over his scar before he forgot. Putting it on in the morning is so routine that he doesn't even have to think about it and he's so used to it being on he sometimes forgets to take it off before bed. He always regrets when he does forget because waking up with old makeup on is not pleasant. Todoroki now sat in the living room in unicorn PJ pants and a t-shirt that said something about Taco Tuesday and decided to start processing things. So his first, best, and only friend almost got murdered by a villain. He didn't, he's okay, but it still felt like a close call, at least to Todoroki. He froze up when it happened. If he wasn't holding the liquid nitrogen, he might not have remembered his quirk at all. If All Might hadn't shown up when he did, oh god. Hey. Roki, calm down. It's okay, breathe with me now. Todoroki hadn't realized he was hyperventilating until Izuku's voice was telling him to breath. His head was full of panic noise but Izuku was there now. Izuku took Todoroki's hand and placed it on his own chest. "Come on, concentrate on my breathing. I'm here, you can feel me. You can feel my breathing, let it ground you." Izuku's other hand was rubbing gentle circles into Todoroki's shoulder. Todoroki nodded, he could feel the steady rise and fall of Izuku's chest, feel his. Good, you're doing great." Izuku praised gently. "Now try to breath with me, alright? And then out, nice and slow. There we go." Once Todoroki's breathing was steady and he was no longer on the verge of having a panic attack, Izuku moved to sit next to him and pulled him into a hug. Todoroki held onto him tightly. He totally wasn't crying a little bit, totally. "Hey Roki, it's okay. This was your first villain attack, and the villain attacked someone you care about right in front of you. Panic is a perfectly reasonable response. Let it out, I'm right here, I got you." Izuku said calmly and gently while rubbing Todoroki's back. I didn't do anything for so long. I'm so stupid. You could have been hurt while I just stood there." Todoroki stuttered dejectedly. "No, you actually acted incredibly quickly." Izuku said, "You were very brave and I'm very impressed. You handled the attack the best way you probably could have. But no buts. You're 14 and had never faced an actual villain before, no one expects you to be able to react on a dime." Izuku stated firmly. "The fact you were able to act at all is amazing and I'm so proud of you." Todoroki sniffled. "Really?" "Of course." Izuku assured. "The first time is always the hardest and you're handling it better than I handled my first time. I remember how scary it was. I didn't have any help in dealing with it but you've got me." "Thank you." Todoroki whispered. "Once you feel better I'll go make dinner and we'll just hang out for the rest of today. You don't have to do anything. Sound good?" Izuku suggested. Todoroki gave a nod. "Yeah, sounds good." Izuku is absolutely way too good to him. Hitoshi was the adopted son of Shouto Todoroki Eraserhead, and despite this his life felt pretty goddamn boring. He didn't really have friends since with his quirk being what it is, other kids tended to not label him as friend material. He gave off a loner vibe too, so people often just avoided him altogether. Whatever. He doesn't really care. Once he's a hero, he'll show everyone he can be a hero even with a quirk like his. Maybe then his family won't be the only one saying he can be great. In about 10 months, high school entrance exams will start and he will get into the hero course at UA one way or another. Of course, he's basically guaranteed in on recommendation, though he's not banking solely on that. Until then, he can live his life as it is, rather uneventful as it may be. Seriously, even his dad's thing with Black Rabbit is getting boring to watch after 5 years. When he asked for a sibling for his 10th birthday, he didn't think the method of eventually getting one would be his dad deciding he needed to adopt the newest vigilante on the block. Hitoshi entered his home and greeted his dad, who was at the table doing paperwork. He had slightly more free time this year because he expelled his entire first-year class at UA on the first day of school. Even if he hadn't, Aizawa is pretty dedicated to not lingering at the school longer than he has to once the school day is over, so he's actually a present part of Hitoshi's day. Even if he does have to stay late, Hitoshi has a permanent UA campus access pass and can just hang out at the school whenever he feels like. He spent a good deal of his childhood on campus. Aizawa did not trust strangers with his baby, so it's basically a second home to him. "How was your day, Toshi?" Aizawa asked as Hitoshi passed. "Boring. Gonna watch some TV. You have 2 hours, then do your homework," Aizawa instructed. "Yes, Dad." Hitoshi went to his room, dropping his backpack on his bed, and changed out of his uniform into something comfortable. After, he slid through the house on his cat-pattern socks to the kitchen and grabbed an apple before sliding to the living room and flopping onto the sofa. The soft thud and slight jostle of the sofa made the brown tabby cat curled on the back of said sofa give an indignant murk noise, to which Hitoshi gave a mumbled sorry. He turned on the TV and flipped through the channels looking for something to watch. He did this for several minutes before coming across a live news broadcast. He's normal not the type to watch those, but this one caught his attention. Some kid was being attacked by a sludge villain, but that wasn't why he paused. A kid in a rabbit mask had just zoomed into the frame while making finger guns at the camera. No need to fear, everyone's favorite vigilante, Black Rabbit, is here to save the day since the heroes don't feel like doing their jobs. F dash, F dash, F dash, F dash, F dash. He has to get his dad now. Hitoshi fell off the sofa in his hurry to get up, but was on his feet again in seconds, running at top speed to the dining table. Spotting his target, he grabbed his dad by the arm and started pulling him towards the living room. "Hitoshi, what the hell? What's wrong?" Aizawa asked. Hitoshi ignored the question. "Dad, hurry, you need to see this. Quick before it's over." "Before what's over?" Aizawa asked again and again, received no answer. Aizawa quickly followed his son despite not getting an answer. He wasn't sure what to expect, but it must be important. Very few things get Hitoshi in a frenzy like this. Still, he could have never guessed what the actual reason Hitoshi was dragging him to the living room was. The world stopped for him as he stood in the middle of the living room and watched Black Rabbit save a teenager, basically defeat a villain, as well as call out and embarrass 5 pro heroes of live TV. The demon kid even bowed at the end and blew a kiss at the camera. Aizawa collapsed onto the sofa after Black Rabbit left the scene, and no one chased him or anything. It looks like he was going to be alright and Aizawa isn't going to have to go bail him out of anywhere, thank God, but he drew a lot of attention to himself with that stunt. He is going to give that kid such an earful when he sees him tonight. Black Rabbit is going to be the death of him, he swears. He had half a mind to get over there and interview those pros at the scene himself, but he wouldn't be able to get there before the whole thing is cleaned up. He can get the information later. Hitoshi sat next to him and they watched the rest of the broadcast in silence. The reporters talked to some of the pros, but they refused to comment on Black Rabbit despite the reporters' constant badgering. When no pro would talk, they turned to the civilians in the crowd, and boy, was that a different story. It seemed Black Rabbit's little show was a hit with the civilians because the crowd loved him. Thought he was cool and skilled and charming. He was the hero that day. The civilians were also criticizing the heroes for standing around instead of doing something, just like Black Rabbit had clearly wanted them to. The pros are going to have to work harder and do better now that people are watching critically, which, Aizawa admits, he approves of. Standing there like that when someone is in danger is unacceptable. Those heroes should be ashamed. When the broadcast was over, the two of them sat in silence for a moment, then Hitoshi looked at Aizawa. Are you going to ground him for this? He has no reason to listen since I'm not his father, but I might try anyway. Aizawa replied. The yet, after claiming he's not Black Rabbit father wasn't said, but they both knew it was implied. Hitoshi let out a snort of laughter. Just adopt him already. I know you wanna. Oh, who says I'm trying to adopt him? Aizawa teased back, ruffling Hitoshi's wild hair. Let's see, I am and so is Uncle Zashi and Aunt Namuri and dash. Hitoshi started listing names. Okay, quit making it sound so obvious. Aizawa interrupted. Not obvious? Do you remember when you first saw him years ago? Hitoshi said. You were ranting for like 2 hours. Not even Uncle Zashi could get a word in. I did not do that. Aizawa denied. Did too. Hideshi insisted. You were flipping your sheet because he was same age as me, so he was just a kid, and what all the other heroes were doing to him is wrong and illogical. You were so said. Well, he is a child and they are handling this wrong and illogically. That doesn't prove anything. Aizawa said defensively. You bring him snacks and check on him and cover for him and get worried about him. You're basically dotting him from a distance, but you and I both know as soon as he within adopting range you're going to pounce and I'm going to have a new brother. Hitoshi claimed. Aizawa let out a good-natured huff. Okay, brat, you've made your point. Don't worry, Dad, he'll come around. I know he will. Then you'll have 2 sons bullshit to deal with. 3 sons. He and his roommates sound pretty bonded. I doubt I could separate them. Hitoshi laughed and leaned against Aizawa. You're adopting kids like cats and we already have 4 cats. Oh shush. Aizawa huffed, trying not to smile. After the sludge incident was over, All Might, or Toshinori Yagi, since he wasn't on hero duty right now, had pulled out his phone and started looking up this Black Rabbit on his way home. He also decided to take that kid's advice and start with the civilian-only discussion forums. There wasn't a copious amount of them, this was a vigilante after all, but the ones that existed weren't that difficult to find. However, all were heavily modded with warnings that they will permaban pros, law enforcement, or anyone else who comes on the forums with intent to push a certain narrative and spread propaganda. Such things are considered malicious acts and against the TOS. He spent the rest of the evening at home, perusing all the information he could find on Black Rabbit. It doesn't appear he's exactly well known among civilians, but from what he's read it seems the public has a rather positive opinion of Black Rabbit. The words kind, compassionate, and charismatic have shown up frequently. The people who've met him seem to have strong positive opinions of him. All in all, the forums were actually quite a good source of information. One even had a link to a Google Drive of every video, news story, and clip where Black Rabbit shows up. Those videos proved he didn't just get lucky today, those skills of his are practiced and maintained. He knows exactly what he's doing and can make quick decisions. He seems to have a thing for embarrassing pro heroes when he catches them not doing their job, drawing attention to the failure to make it so the hero is forced to work harder and do better. More people will be talking about Black Rabbit now since the broadcast of the fight was live and they can't edit him down like in other clips. Plus, so many in the crowd had been filming with their phones he'll be all over the internet by morning if not sooner. Toshinori will ask the other pros their opinion of Black Rabbit, get both sides of the story. Some people on the forums that have met him said they asked his age, which, after doing the math to the present day, would make Black Rabbit about 14 or 15 now if true. If he really is a young teen, then his skills are incredibly advanced for his age, though it's a bit concerning he's doing all this so young. Toshinori definitely want to hear the opinions of the heroes now. He's meeting Tsukachi tomorrow for lunch, he'll ask him. He watched the clips again to try and figure out Black Rabbit's quirk. The jetting he was doing today reminded Toshinori of Gran Torino, which was concerning, mostly because Gran Torino is terrifying and God forbid another one of him enters Toshinori's life. While him having an analysis or minor strength quirk and support equipment has been suggested, the favorite theory seems to be that Black Rabbit has an emulator-type quirk. However, no one is quite sure how it works or what its restrictions are, if any. It's interesting for sure. Toshinori wonders if these theories on Black Rabbit's quirk hold any ground or if more is going on here than meets the eye. An emulator quirk is probably the most realistic theory, honestly. The type of support equipment he'd need to create the abilities he's been seen using would be quite advanced and hard to come by. Plus, no support hero or company would sell support items to a vigilante, especially one that seems so young, and the black market isn't ideal for gear as customized as Black Rabbit would require. The questions are endless. Through the video clips and drawings people made, Toshinori figured out what Black Rabbit's actually costume looks like. The full head mask included rabbit ears, red-colored eye lenses, and a shark tooth-designed mouth guard which would make him look rather scary on a dark night. The rest of the suit seemed to vary depending on the day, with the only consistent bit being his whole body being covered, the gloves, lots of pockets, and knee-high combat boots, as well as his whole costume being darkly colored. Besides those base points, the details vary from report to report. Toshinori is working off scraps of information here, but it's possible the differences could be attributed to Black Rabbit planning for the area he's in and foes he might face there. If so, that's very resourceful and just a smart move altogether. It would also make him hard to prepare against. This kid knows what he's doing and is smart and strategic enough to keep people guessing. Yes, this one is looking promising. It would be a pretty questionable decision to choose a vigilante for this, but if Toshinori can convert Black Rabbit to heroism instead, he lets out a soft sigh. He's been on the lookout for a successor for the past while. The amount of time he's able to use his quirk keeps getting shorter and shorter, and now it's at the point where he almost ran out of time in front of 2 kids today. He needs to find one soon, and when he saw Black Rabbit today, jumping into danger because no one else would act, he was reminded what being a hero is supposed to be about. Gran Torino would probably disapprove of him considering making a vigilante his successor, which is why Toshinori will not be telling him until after the fact. That man is so scary. Before he can give Black Rabbit his quirk, he first has to find him and talk to him, then he's gotta convert the vigilante to heroism. While he could be wrong about the age, Black Rabbit didn't seem that old. If he really is 14 or 15 and Toshinori can talk to and convince him before next year's UA entrance exams, he could get him into the heroics department. It'd be perfect. That all comes later, however. Right now the main issue is finding him. All civilian attempts to figure out his patrol routes or any of his schedule end in failure. Black Rabbit just shows up out of nowhere, saves the person, beats the villain, and disappears again after he makes sure the person he saved is really alright. It looks like he'll have to ask Tsukachi about that too. Toshinori closed the internet pages he had open after bookmarking the forums for future reference and closed his computer. He got a notebook and pen from somewhere in his apartment before sitting back down and began writing down what he knew for sure, theories, and the things he wanted or needed to know about Black Rabbit. A star was doodled next to the things he wanted to ask Tsukachi about. He'll bring the notebook with him tomorrow. Todoroki yawned. He was much calmer than he was earlier when he'd gotten home after the whole sludge villain ordeal thanks to Izuku. True to his word, Izuku had made dinner. Todoroki is definitely a better cook than Izuku at this point, but Izuku did his best, and then they hung out and watched movies the rest of the day. It was really late now though, and Todoroki was sleepy. He doesn't remember which movie is playing. He hasn't been paying too much attention as he keeps nodding off. He thought about getting up and going to bed, but every time he moves, Izuku readjusts slightly and Todoroki is reminded of the position he's currently in. It's not exactly unfamiliar and certainly not uncomfortable, but if he was awake enough right now, he'd be in a whole different type of panic. At some point, Todoroki had moved off the sofa and into the pillow and blanket nest that's always made up on the floor. Izuku always chooses to occupy the nest, so they often ended up being in it together. It's very comfortable and there's plenty of room, but Izuku, without fail, always ends up using Todoroki as a cushion. That's why Todoroki is now stuck in the nest, leaning against a cushion propped up against the sofa, with Izuku asleep in his lap. He's not sure when it happened, and if he wasn't so tired he'd be in his normal gay panic, but as it is, he can barely keep his own eyes open. There's no way he could summon the energy for overthinking. Besides, Izuku was cute and warm and fits so nicely in his arms and in his lap. He snuggles closer when Todoroki runs his fingers through his hair enough times. Izuku's so cute and soft. Waking him up or moving him has got to qualify as a sin. Would it really be so bad to fall asleep right here? He'd be all kinds of stiff in the morning, but that's a small price to pay to have Izuku curled up against him like this all night. The normal internal conflict he feels when they share the nest, and Izuku, as always, ends up leaning against him, sprawled across his lap, or using him as a pillow in some way is absent due to him being too tired to think clearly. Izuku is pretty much completely oblivious to these emotions, either misattributing Todoroki's reactions or missing them altogether. Be that a blessing or a curse, Todoroki has yet to decide. On one hand, a small part of him kinda wants Izuku to notice and pay attention to him. On the other hand, he'd be absolutely mortified and would die of embarrassment if Izuku got even slightly less oblivious. Right now though, Izuku was fast asleep and Todoroki was too sleepy to think too hard about anything. The only thoughts in his mind were that he's warm and comfy and Izuku is really nice to hold and he should hold him more often. Through his sleepy haze, it doesn't even occur to him how much it would concern Izuku if he attempts to hold him more, since Todoroki only initiates physical affection bigger than a shoulder bump or hair ruffle when he needs comfort or a sense of safety. Izuku's the initiator of the two of them and will give him everything from pats on the back to high fives to random hugs all the time. He's always hangs off Todoroki too, leaning on him and sprawling across him whenever possible. It honestly feels really nice to finally get and enjoy the affection he's always wanted but had been denied. Of course, if anyone besides Izuku tried even just to hug him, he'd be extremely uncomfortable. But he trusts Izuku enough not to be bothered and in fact find it enjoyable. Izuku is warm and sweet and bright and caring and just makes him feel safe. Izuku is home and Todoroki wants to keep him close. And right now he is very close. Izuku's head is situated comfortably on Todoroki's left shoulder now, still fast asleep. This is hardly the first time Izuku's fallen asleep on him and certainly won't be the last, as, much like a cat would be drawn to a heater, Izuku seems drawn to his warmer half and always finds a way to have as much of himself as possible pressed against Todoroki's left side. It often makes moving impossible without disturbing him, and everyone knows disturbing anything as cute as Izuku Midoriya is illegal. Todoroki tilts his head to rest it on top of Izuku's. He could hear his friend's soft breathing and feel the rise and fall of his chest. Sleepily, he adjusted his arms so he's holding Izuku more like a human-sized teddy bear. He doesn't remember when he started holding Izuku, but he didn't care enough to think that hard about it, instead just settling down where he was to give into sleep. This was just so nice, so comfortable and warm. Who needs blankets when you have an Izuku to cuddle with? Todoroki's too tired to think and was willing to leave the embarrassment for tomorrow Todoroki to deal with. He officially nods off, feeling very safe and happy. This, of course, didn't last, as sometime later the loud sound of a phone alarm went off somewhere in the room, waking both of them up. Izuku yawned sleepily and rubbed his eyes with one hand while a very tired and also now very grumpy Todoroki glared around the room trying to find the source of the offending noise so they could turn it off, go back to sleep. Oh man, I didn't mean to fall asleep. Glad I set the alarm, foresight and all that, Izuku said drowsily, voice somewhere between mumbling to himself and speaking to Todoroki directly. Your alarm is stupid, Todoroki grumbled while Izuku squirmed in his arms, feeling around the space for his phone. Almost there, and he got it. Izuku grabbed his newly located phone from the floor and turned off the alarm. Can we go back to sleep now? Todoroki whined. He was tired and just wanted to settle back into the warm cuddle they had been in that had felt so nice and go back to sleep. Izuku seemed to have other plans, as he was now trying to get all the way up. To achieve that, however, would require Todoroki letting go of him, and Todoroki is not about to let his personal teddy bear go, instead tightening his grip every time Izuku tries to leave his lap. No one is more stubborn than an extremely tired Todoroki who knows what he wants but isn't getting it. Roki, you can go back to sleep, but I gotta patrol, Izuku said, and Todoroki huffed. You've done enough today. Stay with me. I can't, Roki. I have to patrol. No. Stay. While Izuku had the strength to easily break out of Todoroki's grip if he had to, he wasn't about to force it. Instead, he looked at his friend silently for a moment. Todoroki was pouty and grumpy and clearly sleepy, looking at him like he really doesn't want him to leave. It was adorable. There was no other word for the stubborn pout on Todoroki's face than that. If Izuku hadn't fallen asleep in the first place, this might have been avoided, but Todoroki is so warm and welcoming, he couldn't help it. Todoroki just lets him curl all up on him and melt into him like it doesn't bother him at all. What's Izuku supposed to do? Not fall asleep on him all the time? Like he could give up his human heating unit. Roki, I have to go. Eraserhead probably saw the broadcast and is worried. I need to meet him so he doesn't think something happened to me. I'll just go meet him and come back, I promise. Izuku tried. Meeting with Eraserhead really was the only reason he wanted to go out on patrol tonight. Eraserhead is the only adult he really trusts, and he doesn't like making him worry too much about his well-being. He knows the man won't be okay after seeing that news broadcast until he knows for a fact Izuku is alright. Todoroki considered this in his sleep-addled mind before pouting more. Please stay. Go out tomorrow, stay here tonight. Please. Izuku sighed. He can't do it. Todoroki and that adorable pout wins this round. I won't go tonight. Todoroki hugged him while he tried to get used to how weird it felt to agree to that. Sure, he comes back earlier and takes a night off from vigilante work every week because Todoroki kept getting onto him for not sleeping, but he's never stayed home just because he was asked to. Todoroki wasn't even making a real case or anything. He's too tired for actual reasons and just wants his cuddle buddy to stay with him. He can't remember the last time he bent for anyone like this. Yeah, he's an accommodating person and is good at compromise, but he doesn't just break schedule and routine last minute because of the whims of someone else. It's not a bad thing, he doesn't really mind this time, it's just a little weird he couldn't bring himself to say no when Todoroki probably would even remember this in the morning either way. Dimon, is he going weak for Shouto Todoroki? The boy is pretty hard to say no to if Izuku's honest. And pretty in general. Well, he's already given in for tonight and he's tired, so might as well get some sleep. Eraserhead is just going to have to wait just a little bit longer. As he cuddles back up to Todoroki's warm side, he absently hopes Eraser doesn't chew him out too badly tomorrow night before easily falling asleep again. This time there were no more interruptions. When Todoroki woke up, the fake windows were simulating morning sunshine. He was still in the nest, though he was now lying down and Izuku wasn't there, and was trying to remember why he was here and not in his bed. He didn't remember begging Izuku to stay home last night at all. After a minute, he pulled together the energy to sit up and stretch. His joint popped audibly and he made a note not to sleep in a weird position on the floor again. It was only quite for a moment longer before a far too awake Izuku came into the room with food. You're up. Good. Izuku said cheerfully before handing Todoroki a plate of food and sitting next to him with his own plate. Todoroki looked at him, just now beginning to really wake up. We're eating in here? Yup. 'Cause you wouldn't let me patrol last night, so now you must eat breakfast with me on the floor while being my human heater. Izuku said, pressing up against Todoroki's left side as much as possible. Todoroki was confused. He did what now? I don't mind being your personal heater, but what do you mean I wouldn't let you patrol? I don't remember that at all. We'd fallen asleep here, then my phone woke us up and you wouldn't let me leave. You were way too tired to give a real reason. I just think you were comfy and wanted to keep me as a teddy bear. Todoroki put a hand over his face, though it didn't do much to hide his embarrassed blush. I'm sorry, Izuku. For both keeping you from patrolling and using you as a teddy bear. It's alright. Probably shouldn't have gone out after all that attention anyway, and you don't have to apologize for using me as a teddy bear. As long as I'm on your warm side, I'm fine with it. Todoroki smiled a little and ate some of his food. He warmed his left side up a little bit more and Izuku let out a pleased sigh, pressing further into him. Why do you like my left side so much? Todoroki asked. It's Endeavor's quirk. Izuku clicked his tongue disapprovingly. Roki, what have I told you about that? I'm not allowed to connect my quirk to Endeavor in any way, or you will be very disappointed in me and give me that lecture about the way I talk about myself again. Yep. Now what do we say about your quirk? My quirk is special because I make it special. It is mine and only I can decide how I will use it. It is my power and only my power, and nothing can change that. Todoroki recited. Izuku gave an approving nod. That's right, and you will keep saying that until you believe it for real. Now, restate your question correctly. Todoroki sighed. The whole talking better about himself thing is a little tiring, but Izuku will stare him down each day until he's said enough nice things about himself. Why do you like my left side so much? I still find it a bit weird for anyone to like my fire. Izuku seemed to approve of the way Todoroki phrased the question this time. As you know, my dad had a fire quirk. It made him run at a higher body temperature, so he was always warm to the touch. Because of that, I've always associated warm things with comfort and safety. So his fire makes Izuku feel safe. It brings him comfort. But Todoroki can get behind that. If his left side really makes Izuku so happy, maybe his fire isn't such a bad thing to have. I'm glad you like that part of me. I like every part of you, Roki, not just your warmth. Izuku said. I've just been missing having someone warm in my life, so I can't help but like being near your left side. Todoroki put his left arm around Izuku. You're welcome to it any time. Toshinori was heading to the cafe to meet with Tsukachi. It was a very nice day out, which Toshinori was rather thankful for, since the cafe they were meeting at was changed last minute to be closer to where Tsukachi was that day, so he had to travel farther than normal. He hoped the place wouldn't be too busy so he could avoid other customers being close enough to overhear them, since he intends to ask about Black Rabbit. He finally arrived at the cafe. It was a nice little shop in a cozy little street corner that Toshinori had never been to before, called the Meowfie shop. Being new to the area, he's not familiar with his surrounding yet, but Tsukachi said this was a good place to grab lunch if you're looking for a calm atmosphere and/or really like cats. Tsukachi isn't there yet, so Toshinori goes in and orders something he can actually eat and sits at a secluded table to wait. The cafe was rather empty at the moment. The two people at a corner table were the only other customers here. Toshinori glanced at them, one looking like he was asleep with a cat in his lap, while a teen with wild purple hair sat across from him with earbuds in and a kitten on his shoulder. They wouldn't be a bother or too nosy. A short while later the door opened and Tsukachi entered the building. Toshinori waved at him and he waved back before getting some cat-themed food and joining him at the table. Tsukachi practically collapsed into his chair, seeming exhausted. I'm sorry for being a bit late, Toshinori. After yesterday things have been a bit nuts. Tsukachi said. Toshinori waved the apology off. It's fine, I haven't been waiting long. They talked as they normally do for a while, catching up since last time they saw each other. During this time, two other people came into the cafe. Toshinori recognized them as the children he rescued the day before. They sat at a table by a cat tree full of kittens not too far away, but they weren't loud enough to be bothersome and they seemed too focused on each other to notice anything else. I assume you saw the live broadcast yesterday? I'm surprised Black Rabbit did that. He's never been much for the spotlight. Tsukachi said, taking a sip from his drink. I'd actually never heard of him until yesterday and I'm rather interested in learning more. What he did was rather heroic, don't you think? He shouldn't have used his quirk without a license, but I have to admit he knew what he was doing. Tsukachi responded. You mean saving that child? That too, but I was referring to the media attention. He drew enough attention to the failings of those heroes that he embarrassed that their agencies got scared of public backlash. Now those heroes are being required to take and pass classes on their failure to respond. That's a fair response to what happened. While Toshinori feels hypocritical since he didn't act either, he knows Tsukachi will argue that he can't act when he was already at his quirk limit. He already coughs up blood regularly, going past his limit qualifies more as irresponsible self-endangerment at this point than anything else. Tsukachi let out a breath. While I agree, it frightens me that a vigilante knows how to wrap the public and the media around his finger like that. What exactly is his quirk? His getting around reminded me a lot of Gran Torino. The child with the green hair choked on the fork full of cat paw-shaped cake he was eating. Toshinori and Tsukachi looked over at their table, concerned by the sudden coughing. The teen chugged his drink and seemed fine afterwards, though his friend was giving him a worried look. Toshinori and Tsukachi went back to their conversation, not thinking anything of it. We haven't confirmed anything, but after getting some quirk analysts on the case, we're 99% certain he's got an extremely powerful emulator-type quirk. Do you know how it works? It's like, Tsukachi waved his hand in a vague motion, If he sees a quirk being used and can figure out how it works, he can emulate it or at least aspects of it, which quite terrifying. We're not sure where his limits are. The two of them didn't hear the green-haired boy and his friend snicker and give each other looks like they're in on something no one else is. He must be hard to go up against. We've been trying to catch him for almost 5 years and there hasn't even been close to a single arrest. He's too dim and fast, and even if we did catch him, convicting him won't be easy when we have so little actual proof. What do you mean? Most of his work is done without us knowing until he calls in a tip-off he won't take credit for, and by the time we get there he's gone. Be careful not to be on camera and is good at skating around laws, so he's technically not breaking anything. Basically, he know how to make his arrest hard to hold up in court. The green-haired child grinned at that and tried to hide it in his drink while his friend looked at him with pride in his heterochromatic eyes. The two men, however, were far too into their conversation to notice the teen's reactions. What about hero testimonies? Toshinori asked. It'd be very hard to find hero whose testimony wouldn't be disqualified for bias. Yesterday was far from the first time he's called out heroes. He does it quite often and always finds a way to make sure something is done about it. Are these callouts malicious? Toshinori asked. Tsukachi paused and to think about this for a moment. Well, now that you bring it up, no, I don't believe they are. He leans more towards heroes getting corrective training than wanting them to lose their job. Off the record, I don't think he's a bad person per se, but he's definitely misguided. Toshinori thought he heard a very quiet dim and right from the table with the purple-haired teen and sleeping adult, but a glance showed the only thing to change was there were more cats now, so he wrote it off. He seems to have everyone's best interest at heart. Yes, well, we know what he wants us to do and have learned it's best to go along with it. The one time we didn't, he gave us hell. I can't say what happened since it's classified, but we learned our lesson. Tsukachi shuddered at the memory, but Toshinori found this promising. It sounds like Black Rabbit has a strong will, perfect for inheriting One for All. It also helps that he seems more focused on making people improve themselves rather than taking them out of the picture altogether. Do we know how old he is? Toshinori asked, trying not to give away how important of a question this was to him. Tsukachi shrugged. No idea. We actually don't know anything about him at all. He hits so many places we aren't even sure what district he's from. Does he have patrol routes? Sure, but he's got a bunch of different ones for each area and we never know which area or which route he's going to use. There's no pattern to it and he likes tweaking them. That a very smart move. Toshinori said, mentally checking off his assumption that Black Rabbit was quite intelligent off as correct on his list. That's why he's the most wanted vigilante in Japan. He's not just a force to be reckoned with in a fight, he's also highly intelligent. Tsukachi said, dead serious, before lowering his voice to a whisper only Toshinori could hear. If he decides to go villain, we might have a new Black Dragon on our hands. Toshinori shuddered at the mention of Black Dragon. The villain was terrifying in his prime and the arrest was so weird. He'd mostly put it behind him until that kid asked about the villain yesterday. Speaking of, that kid had gotten a really scary vibe when Toshinori hadn't answered straight away. He spared a quick glance at the kid and found the dark aura absent. Right now the kid was all sunshine, saying something that made his friend laugh. They were cute and it put Toshinori at ease. We certainly don't need that again. Toshinori replied. That was it. He's decided for certain now. He was going to find Black Rabbit and he would guide him so he can be the next holder of One for All. He'd be an amazing hero, the next symbol of peace. This is definitely a good idea, maybe a bit unorthodox, but a good idea regardless. Somewhere in Japan, Gran Torino gets the distinctive sense that Toshinori just made another poorly thought-out decision. Izuku stood in the kitchen in his Black Rabbit costume minus the mask which he was holding in his hand. It was late and he had to get patrolling soon, but Todoroki had insisted he wait until his snack was ready, so now he was watching Todoroki, king of sandwich making, make said snack. One sandwich got finished and wrapped up, but Todoroki smacked Izuku's hand when he tried to grab it. Hey! Izuku objected, pouting. I'm not done, Izuku. Todoroki scolded lightly. You have to meet Eraser tonight and I have a feeling this time it'll run long, so I'm making him one too. he doesn't need one. It's my fault you didn't show up last night. This is an apology sandwich. I'm not complaining about getting to be all up against your warmness all night, you know. Izuku said with a smirk. 5 stars, would sleep on again. Todoroki made this high-pitched whining noise as his face turned the same red as his scar, which is free of makeup by now. So adorable. You're like an annoying cat. He grumbled. You mean like Naya? Izuku said, pretending to paw at the air while trying to hold back giggles. Todoroki looked over at Izuku. What? Like Naya? Stop. They stuck their tongues out at each other, then Todoroki rolled his eyes as Izuku finally gave in and started giggling. Todoroki ignored Izuku's stupid, cute, grinning face and finished up making and packing the snacks before handing them over. Izuku put them in his designated snack pouch, then hugged Todoroki, actually lifting him and spinning him in a circle before setting back on his feet. Thank you, Roki. You're the best. Todoroki looked away, face going redder. Just get going already. You don't have all night. Okay, I'm going. Izuku said, both looking and sounding amused. Good night, Roki. I'll see you in the morning. Good night, be safe. Todoroki replied, watching Izuku put his mask and mouthguard on. I will, see ya. Izuku gave him a wave before leaving the kitchen. Todoroki sighed as he wished for his heart to slow, and it was a bit more dreamy sounding than he expected. Izuku's never hugged him like that before. It must be because he's been in an exceptionally good mood since overhearing that conversation at lunch. He really does have them all thoroughly played. Of course, even Todoroki can admit it's pretty funny that an officer Izuku calls Detective Lie Detector had a whole conversation about Black Rabbit without realizing said vigilante was literally 5 feet to his left the entire time. It's extra funny since Eraserhead was also there the whole time pretending to be asleep. You'd think the police would be more observant. Todoroki stretched, then decided to go to bed. Izuku will be back in the morning, and the only way to get to morning faster is to sleep through the waiting. He hopes Eraserhead isn't too hard on Izuku for not showing yesterday, but he gets the feeling it'll be fine. Izuku skated around, biding his time. This patrol is a bit of a wreck and he just has to deal with it. There aren't really any villains out tonight, but he's been stopped by civilians who recognized his mask from the news broadcast and wanted selfies with him. He won't give autographs. Hisashi had taught him the art of charisma and winning people over very early on, and it certainly was paying off now that he was in the media spotlight. Civilians love him, and it renders pros unable to arrest him while civilians are present. It's looking like hero rank and pay, being highly popularity-based, is biting them in the butt in the most convenient and hilarious way. Nothing fuels Izuku's smug, petty heart like seeing a pro-hero glare at him from across the street, unable to do anything about him because civilians are present, and arresting him would make the pro look bad. Still, it's a bit tiring. When he was little he wanted the spotlight, but nowadays, if he ever became a hero, he'd go for being underground like Eraserhead. Still, despite not really wanting the extra attention, he doesn't regret jumping in yesterday. He can't stand around and do nothing while someone is in danger, especially when the heroes refuse to do their jobs. After all, that's part of why he started being a vigilante in the first place, isn't it? Heroes who don't act appropriately to the situation don't deserve to continue with their behavior uncorrected. What happened to him spun out of control because a hero refused to admit his mistake. They took so much from him by not owning up, and he refuses to let that happen to anyone else. If that means dragging every single pro and being a vigilante for the rest of his life, so be it. He won't let anyone else suffer. Finally, he decided to stop stalling and started off to the tallest building in the area. If he went through the shadiest alleys in hopes of finding some villains to fight, avoiding civilians, and maybe delay the inevitable, who's to judge? He is used to kicking more butt than this, and he's getting bored. Instead of fighting villains and saving people, he's been in at least 12 selfies and was stuck talking to a group of civilians at least 3 times since he left his home. He absolutely hates fame, but he also refuses to be anything but warm, kind, and charismatic to others. Curse his bright and helpful personality. Eventually he makes it to the building and makes his way to the top unnoticed. Once there he finds the roof empty, thank God, and proceeds to go sit in his normal spot at the edge and leans back on his hands. He doesn't know when or if Eraserhead will show up, so he'll just wait. Might as well enjoy the peace while it lasts. Just when Izuku was beginning to think Eraserhead wasn't going to show, in reality Izuku was just really early, he heard the distinctive sound of a relieved sigh, the kind only a parent that thought for sure something had happened to their child can make. He looked behind him to see Eraserhead standing there. They looked at each other in silent communication before Izuku huffed, stood up, and walked over. "Fine. You can have one." That's all that needed to be said, and a moment later Izuku was being hugged. It was a tight hug, desperate, like Eraserhead needed to make sure he was really there. It was protective and worried and relieved in only the way a parent who was so scared for their child can manage. Izuku awkwardly pat him on the back but didn't participate further. After a short while, Eraserhead let out a breath and let Izuku go. "If you won't tell anyone I gave you a hug, I won't tell anyone you let me. Deal?" Izuku agreed. They both had reputations to keep up after all. "Can we not sit on the edge tonight? I know we're too high up for anyone to see, but I still feel like there's eyes on me." "Not enjoying the fame?" "Shut up." Eraserhead rolled his eyes. "Find a spot while I grab you a drink from the vending machine. Get something for yourself too." Izuku after him then found a nice clear spot and sat there cross-legged. The rooftop vending machine is part of why Izuku chose this building to be his break spot. It's nice that Eraser always buys him a drink from it, though he's pretty sure he only does so because Izuku picks the lock on the thing and steals from it when it's left up to him. He doesn't understand how it's a big deal if one can of soda goes missing every so often, but whatever. Eraserhead came back with 2 drinks and sat across from Izuku at an appropriate distance. He handed Izuku the juice and kept the canned coffee for himself. Izuku opened his mouth guard and took the sandwiches out of his snack pouch, holding one out to Eraserhead until he eventually accepted it. "Todoroki made me a sandwich?" "It's an apology sandwich 'cause he's the reason I wasn't patrolling last night." Izuku explained, then took a bite of his own sandwich. "Plus, he said he thought this might run long, so we might as well both have a snack." "Fair enough." Eraser agreed, relaxing at the knowledge nothing bad happened last night. "So, why did Todoroki keep you from patrolling?" "He's clearly aware doing so would make me worry about you. We fell asleep together in the living room, and when my phone alarm woke us up he was still half asleep and didn't want me to quit being his teddy bear. He was cute and grumpy and arguing wasn't working, so I stayed." "You fell asleep together and he used you as a teddy bear?" "Yes. I fell asleep in his lap, so it's not like he had any other place to put his arms but around me, which basically made me his teddy bear." Izuku confirmed, completely missing the point. "He's very warm, so I fall asleep on him often." "I suppose I can understand you choosing to sleep with your boyfriend instead of go out after all that media attention." Izuku broke into a coughing fit after choking on the juice he'd been drinking. "Be boyfriend?" he squeaked, voice spiking in pitch as he started wildly waving his hands around. No. We aren't dating. He doesn't even know I'm bi. And I don't think he liked me like that anyway. It's platonic, I swear. He's just warm and I like the warmth. I can't help it that I'm cuddle-sized. Stop looking at me like that." Izuku wanted to throw something at Eraserhead's smug face, but he didn't have anything that wouldn't hurt him, so he settled for wrapping his arms around his own head as he felt his face burn. It didn't stop Eraserhead from enjoying this immensely. Hitoshi has never had a crush Eraser could tease him about, so he was going to have a field day with this. "But you like him, don't you?" "No. Maybe. I don't know." Izuku whined hopelessly. "I've never actually thought about it." "Really now?" "Never." Eraser sounded endlessly smug. "No. Just because he's pretty doesn't mean I have a crush on him." "So you think he's pretty? Let's talk about something else." Izuku screeched, completely mortified at being teased about. "This. I was on TV, aren't you going to scold me about that?" "That's less fun than teasing you, but I do have a few words about that. Anything is better than you insisting I'm in love with my boyfriend, best friend." "I meant best friend." Eraserhead let out a snort of laughter and Izuku glared at him despite knowing Eraserhead couldn't see it because of the mask. I didn't say anything about love, but anyway, Eraserhead said, then switched to being stern, fixing Izuku with a hard glare. What were you thinking? Jumping in on live TV and in front of 5 heroes? Really? You almost gave me a heart attack. What if you'd been caught? Did you forget you're on the most wanted list? No. I didn't forget. Izuku said. He knows he deserves this. Yet you still did, stupid sheet. I know you're more skilled than a lot of pros and very fast, but that doesn't mean you can be reckless. Regardless of your skill level or intelligence, you're just a kid. What are you now, 15? Almost. Kid, I know to you that feels old, it feels like you're all grown up, but you're not. You're still in middle school. I don't want you to ruin your future. If you get caught and they find out who you are, it's over. I don't want that for you. I'm not in middle school. Izuku murmured. I graduated 4 years ago, it's just high school has an age minimum. See? This is what really kills me about you being a vigilante, about you broadcasting yourself like that. You're advanced in so many places and so much of it you've managed all on your own. It's incredible. Do you know how many kids with heroic aspirations I've seen? Too many to count, they're everywhere, and none of them has had the pure potential you do. Eraserhead sounded exasperated. I just get so frustrated with you sometimes. I'm scared one day you'll have dug yourself in too deep for me to pull you out. I'm sorry, but I'm currently the only reason heroes are being held responsible when they don't do their job, and if I hadn't done anything, that kid would have died. Izuku sighed. I couldn't stand there and let it happen. I know. I'm not going to fault you for doing the right thing. It's just you could be so much more than this. I'm begging you, kid, please stop this. You can live with me and so can Todoroki. We won't tell anyone who he is. I'll protect both of you and I can even train you myself. You can have a family again. Don't you miss having that? Izuku bit his lip. You aren't my dad. I appreciate what you do for me and how much you care, but I have a dad already. He's not in my life, but he's still my dad and you can't replace him. Eraserhead sighed and looked at Izuku sadly. One day I hope you realize I would never disrespect someone so clearly important to you like that. I promise you I'm not trying to replace your father. All I'm trying to do is be the person you need me to be, and that just happens to be a parent. Yeah. I'm fine as is though. I've made it almost 5 years, the rest of my life can't be that hard. Eraser didn't seem surprised the answer was still no. One day the kid will give in, but that day is not today. So, he just has to wait, because no one can force Black Rabbit to do anything he doesn't want to. Having a family again after being alone for 5 years wouldn't exactly be an easy transition either, so if Black Rabbit isn't ready, there's not much Eraser can do about it. I figured you still wouldn't go for it. Eraser said. So, instead I'm going to give you my contact information. Izuku tried to treat this seriously, he really did, but he couldn't handle the depressing tone any longer and the snark left his mouth before he could stop it. Contact information? If you really want us to get serious, at least buy me dinner first. I'm serious, Rabbit. Eraserhead said sternly, but still seemed relieved by the break in the tension. If you are in trouble, I want you to contact me so I can come help you. At the very least you can use it to tell me you're okay after you do something stupid and make me worry. Okay, but I have conditions. I won't give your number to anyone or anything. I promise your information will be safe. Izuku waved him off. I know that. Just 'cause I'm not about to let you adopt me doesn't mean I don't trust you. You have more reason not to betray me than anyone else. Then what are these conditions I feel like I'm going to regret asking about? First, my contact name in your phone has to be a pun or no deal. I want Present Mike to pick it out. Tell him to go buck wild with it. Oh no! Second, your son boy gets to make my contact photo. I want him to make the absolute worst edit possible, and it has to be based on the pun Present Mike comes up with. I'll be needing you to text me a picture of both. Do you enjoy turning my life to chaos? Eraserhead asked, not looking forward to the headache this request will cause. Izuku grinned really big. Absolutely. Fine. You're lucky I care about you, kid. I wouldn't go through with that for just anyone. Eraserhead said, not even pretending Black Rabbit wasn't being 100% serious. He finally took a bite of his sandwich. Diamen, this is good. I know, right? Todoroki is a sandwich wizard. He has mystical sandwich powers that allow him to make every sandwich incredible. Izuku agreed. Tell Todoroki I appreciate the sandwich. Also, here's my contact. Eraserhead handed Black Rabbit a card he already had written out. If you can, next time you feel like jumping in with the media, don't, or at least just freeze the cameras first. Freezing the cameras. Dimminute, why didn't I think of that? Eraserhead snorted. Saying Black Rabbit is smart would be the understatement of the century, but he's still only 14, there's still a lot he has to learn. Wait, if he's only 14, nearly 15, then next year he should be entering high school. If he gets into UA, Eraserhead would have contact with him out of costume 5 days a week. He could mold him into a hero and, in doing so, hopefully make him drop this vigilante stuff. All he has to do is convince Black Rabbit to go to UA and aim for the heroics department. Yes, that's a good plan. Aizawa wishes he could say he was surprised that the first message he got from Black Rabbit was a meme. He also really wishes Black Rabbit would stop sending them while he was trying to teach. As far as he's aware, Black Rabbit doesn't know he's a teacher, but DMN these meme texts are perfectly timed. DMN teenager. He's had a reprieve from the plague of texts today, at least, and will continue to for the next little while. Hitoshi's. School is closed for repairs after a villain attack 2 days ago, so he's stuck on UA campus during school hours until it reopens. Aizawa is using this as an excuse to put Hitoshi in charge of his phone. Hitoshi can deal with Black Rabbit until he can go back to school again. Speaking of that villain attack, Black Rabbit showed up to it and stole the show. Not only did he stop the villain, but he personally saved multiple people including Hitoshi. In fact, Aizawa got a "me and your son boy are fine" text accompanied by a selfie of Black Rabbit with Hitoshi before he was even notified of the attack itself. The kid barely went 2 months before landing himself in the spotlight again. Sure, he's had a constant presence since the sludge incident, but he wasn't big news. Now he's back in the media and trending all over the internet. The little sheets got the everyone wrapped around his finger too. The camera loves him, the media loves him, the public loves him, and the heroes hate him for it, among other reasons. He's only managed to stay in the public's good graces because the majority of people don't know he's just a kid, and Aizawa can't even really blame most people for getting it wrong anymore. They didn't know him at age 11 when he was just a tiny little thing, when it was obvious that this was a child. Nowadays there's no clumsiness or uncertainty in Black Rabbit's movements. He looks like a trained professional, and Aizawa can't fault the general public for believing that. The heroes that regularly deal with the kid, however, don't have an excuse. How they haven't figured out Black Rabbit is a teenager is beyond Aizawa. He gets irritated every time he sees Black Rabbit's official file and sees age still marked as unknown without even an estimate written down. He doesn't want to put his interactions with Black Rabbit in question, so he can't do much about it, but it's still frustrating. As he walked down the hallway at UA, intent on finding a quiet place to spend free PRD and lunch asleep, Aizawa must have looked extra grumpy because the few students still in the hall gave him a wide berth. He's savoring being taken seriously here since starting next year Hitoshi and, hopefully, Black Rabbit will be attending. Hitoshi will be as much of a sheet as he can get away with, but will behave overall since he does want to be a hero. Black Rabbit, on the other hand, is going to be a menace. Aizawa's calling it now. He's going to be the worst, and Aizawa will just have to deal with him like the problem child he is. The upcoming 3 years are going to be, they're going to be something alright. He hasn't exactly brought up high school with Black Rabbit yet since he's still trying to gauge what type of plans the kid has, if any. It's important to know if Black Rabbit has something in the works, as it changes how Aizawa has to approach this. He has 8 months to work with now, and he can feel the time ticking. Aizawa was brought out of his thoughts by excited chatter and turned his head to see a group of students loitering in the hallway. He recognized the 3 of them as second-year students, 2 boys and a girl. They were grouped together looking at something. Look, there he goes." The blonde boy said. "What a high jump." The girl cheered excitedly. Are you sure we're allowed to watch this here, Mirio?" The last boy asked nervously. "Don't worry, Tumki. A little live stream during free PRD never hurt anyone," the blonde, Mirio, assured. Aizawa changed course and walked over to them. None of them noticed but Tamaki. I know but dash. Tamaki cut himself off, shrinking back a little. Mirio looked at him concerned. But what? Tamaki was pale as he pointed behind them. Aizawa-sensei. All three students turned to face Aizawa, trying to act innocent, or in Tamaki's case, trying to become invisible by sheer force of will. Aizawa raised an eyebrow. And why are you three standing around? Free PRD doesn't mean you get to loiter in the halls. Oh, sorry about that, sensei. We'll get going. Mirio attempted. That didn't answer my question, Togata. Oh right, well you see, Nijire wait. Mirio startled as the girl, Nijire, stole his phone from him. We stopped because Mirio has the current Black Rabbit live stream playing on his phone. Nijire held the phone screen up to Aizawa. Isn't Black Rabbit so cool? There was Black Rabbit all right. He made a daytime costume, which means this might be more frequent of event. Great. Aizawa hadn't realized his quirk had activated until the students took a step back. He was going to murder that rabbit. Quit standing around in the hall before I give you detention. The second years quickly said, yes sensei, and made their escape. Aizawa, now on a warpath, quickly made his way to the teacher's lounge. He needed his phone so he could watch the live stream, and when it's over he's going to call Black Rabbit and chew him out. That kid is going to make him go gray prematurely, he swears. When he entered the teacher's lounge, he found Hitoshi sandwiched between Mike and Midnight on the sofa. They were watching something on a laptop, and Aizawa has a feeling he knows what. When he walks over they pale and automatically move to make room for him to sit and watch. It's the live stream all right. The four of them watch in silence as Black Rabbit defeats villains and charms the crowd. Apparently Aizawa didn't get here in time for the saving a bunch of people part. The live streamer keeps a good lock on Black Rabbit the entire time. A quick glance at the streamer name proved this Twitch channel is called the Rabbit Watch. Of course Black Rabbit has enough fans now for them to have made a Twitch account dedicated solely to live streaming his appearances. At the end, an on-duty police officer arrested Black Rabbit. The crowd almost went rabid on him, booing him and immediately causing the need for crowd control. All the civilians were furious that the fan favorite who just did all the work saving the day again is being arrested. Black Rabbit seemed unconcerned and said something witty about it, and adding that he'd be fine. Not that calmed the crowd. The video followed Black Rabbit until he was in the cop car and in Quirk suppressant cuffs. Then the streamer got bumped and he almost dropped his phone. They got a good view of the guy's god-awful multicolored neon high tops and mismatched socks while he fumbled with the phone. The streamer held up a card that said to follow at the Rabbitwatch Twitter for stream updates. Then the stream ended. Snipe walked in about that time, then turned on his heel and left without comment when he noticed the fact that Aizawa looked ready to murder. Midnight had one hand on her costume in case she had to knock him out, while Mike looked like he was trying to think of something to say to defuse the situation. Aizawa wanted to call or at least text him, but he couldn't without putting Black Rabbit in danger. Hitoshi. I'm already on it. Hitoshi said, already looking through the ending of the stream playback to try and find what police station they're taking Black Rabbit to. I follow the Twitter already. Hizashi, Namuri, tell Nizu why I have to cut out early for me. Mike and Midnight exchanged looks, but before anyone could actually do anything Aizawa's phone rings. They all stare at it. The pun Mike came up with showed on the screen along with the actual number being glitched out. None of them are sure how Black Rabbit managed the glitch effect. After it rang a few times Hitoshi answered it and after a second handed it to Aizawa. Hello? Aizawa asked hesitantly. Hi. You're not Black Rabbit? Aizawa said suspiciously. Yanoda. The teenage boy on the other end said. This is it. What does he call me around you? I should have asked more questions when he told me his dumb plan at breakfast. Dimon. At breakfast? Wait. Only one person lives with that idiot child as far as Aizawa's aware. Oh. He's the best friend. Aizawa stated carefully. It's not that he doesn't trust Mike and Midnight with the fact missing child Shouto Todoroki lives with Black Rabbit, but it's better safe for sorry. He doesn't know if Mike could stop himself from blowing Endeavor's ears out if he found out what's going on, and Aizawa doesn't want to make things any more difficult for the kid. That's me. Todoroki replied. Alright, now what the F is going on? And why do you have his phone? He didn't want anyone to confiscate it, so he gave it to me for safekeeping. As for what's going on, well, he did this on purpose. Aizawa didn't know what to say for a second. What? He came up with this plan and this situation was part of it. Please go make sure he's okay. I'll text you the address of the station he's at. Why the F? You know what, never mind. Just tell me where to go. Thank you, and just hurry. Todoroki hung up, and a moment later Aizawa's phone pinged with a text containing the address of the police station. Thankfully it wasn't too far away. If he hurries, he can hopefully make it before something bad happens. He only made it as far as the entrance to the teacher's lounge as Nizu appeared out of nowhere, blocking the doorway. You seem in a hurry. Nizu noted. Is there something wrong? Black Rabbit was arrested, so I have to go attend the interrogation to keep him from trying anything. Nizu stared at him while he considered Aizawa's excuse, and it was unnerving. For all Aizawa knew, Nizu could be stalling just because he's a sadistic F, but Aizawa's "my child is in danger" sense kept him from breaking under the pressure. Finally, Nizu nodded. Alright, if this arrest is successful, please tell Detective Tsukachi I would like to speak with Black Rabbit. Oh, Aizawa does not like the sound of that. If I asked why, would you tell me? Nope. Nizu replied cheerfully. Get going now. Aizawa just nodded before running out of the room. Izuku sat in the uncomfortable metal chair in the interrogation room, wrists strategically placed on the table, completely unbothered. The police couldn't figure out how to remove any piece of his costume and clearly didn't realize the mouth guard opened, so his identity was safe. This was actually pretty entertaining, and he was happy they couldn't see how much he was grinning. They'd frisked him but found nothing to confiscate. That's not to say he didn't have anything on him that should be confiscated in this situation, it's just he either made them to look like normal things a person would have on them, or it's built into his costume so they don't even realize it's there. For example, his health capsules were mistaken for a box of Tic Tacs and he was allowed to keep them, and no one guessed his shoes are modified. He's played everyone so completely, and he's eternally smug about it. After a long while, Tsukachi finally entered the room looking wary. This is the first chance they've ever gotten to question Black Rabbit, and there was a lot of pressure for things to go well. He sat across from Black Rabbit with a pad of paper and his case file. The file was pitifully thin considering how long they've been after him. Oh, what's this? They called in Detective Lie Detector from all the way across town, just for little old me? I'm touched. Izuku said and took pleasure in Tsukachi's surprised reaction. Yeah, I know all about your quirk. That's not public information. Tsukachi replied, disliking that it'll be much harder to trap Black Rabbit in a lie now. Izuku shrugged. What can I say? Quirks fascinate me. I would assume so given what your quirk is. Tsukachi replied, and Izuku bit his lip to keep from snickering. Anyway, I will be questioning you, and since you know my quirk, I expect you not to lie. They say you're more accurate than a polygraph test, but did you know it's pretty easy to beat those if you know what you're doing? Izuku said with a bit too much interest, unnerving Tsukachi a little. I have theories about your quirk and questions. Like, does it ping as true or false when you're only given a partial truth? Or does a person only have to believe it to be true, or does it actually have to be true to register as such? I love to run some tests. We aren't here to talk about my quirk. You might not be, but I am. Tsukachi gave an exasperated sigh. First question, since you like quirks so much, why don't you tell me about yours? That wasn't a question. I call foul for vocabulary inaccuracy. Oh boy, Tsukachi can already tell this is going to be a long interrogation. Fine. What is your quirk and how does it work? Well, wouldn't you like to know? I would like to know. Yeah, but it's much more fun to watch you run in circles trying to figure it out. Izuku said, sounding as smug as he felt. I'm rooting for you, but I'm not going to help you figure it out. This is all a game to you, isn't it? Yup, and there are no hints when playing on expert mode, so you're out of luck, buddy. We'll come back to your quirk. Tsukachi replied, sounding tired. You do that. Tsukachi figured he'd run into the same sass if he asked about Black Rabbit's identity, so. A fresh batch of blackberry rabbit buns out. Izuku looked up. What did you call them now? Oh, the girl looked a little sheepish. All my pastries are hero-themed, and since Black Rabbit has gotten so popular, I figured it'd be good for business if I made a new sweet based on him. They're my best seller right now. He is cool, but you know he's a vigilante, not a hero, right? Well, if you want to get technical, but have you seen him? What he does looks like heroism to me, and from what I hear from my customers, I'm not the only one who thinks that. The girl said, then raised an eyebrow at him. Are you okay? You're a little red. I'm fine. I just thought of something embarrassing is all. Izuku squeaked, trying to control his blush. She called him a hero. Holy shit. Alright if you say so. The girl said. Keep looking if you'd like. I'll be right back. Izuku took this moment to calm down, at least on the outside, while inside he was still screaming. He was called a hero. He was called a hero. He was called a hero. People like him, sure, but he didn't expect them to think he was a hero. He'd forgotten how much he'd wanted to be called that growing up, how much he'd wanted to be acknowledged positively. He hopes Todoroki is prepared because he's going to cry when he gets home. He got distracted from his internal screaming session by the most amazing smell as the girl came back with a big tray of the blackberry rabbit buns. They were bunny-shaped with little ears and everything and covered in a dark blackberry glaze. Little red candies were set to copy the lenses of his mask, and a little edible mouthguard was attached below them. It was cute, it was definitely him, it smelled mouth-wateringly amazing. He had to try them. Those smell amazing and I would like 4 of them. The girl smiled. Of course. She put 4 in a box and Izuku paid and said goodbye before taking the box and heading home. It took great restraint not to buy more sweets than just this, and he had to get out before his resolve cracked. As he left, he made a note of the bakery name and location so he could come back if these pastries were as good as they smelled. By the time he got home, he'd almost opened the box and started eating the sweets 3 times. But somehow he managed to resist. Now that he was back, the first thing he has to do is find Todoroki and let him know everything worked out, then he can eat the pastries. Locating Todoroki wasn't that hard. Izuku could practically feel his stress radiating through the base, and he just had to follow it to the concentrated center. That center happened to be the kitchen where Todoroki was stress cooking. Judging by the various muffins and things set around the area, he'd been at this for a while. Hey, I'm back. Izuku greeted, setting the box on the table. Todoroki froze mid-stir, then turned around to face Izuku. Seconds later, he was at Izuku's side, hugging him tightly. Are you okay? Did everything go alright? I was so effing worried, don't ever do that again. Izuku hugged Todoroki back, leaning into the embrace. Todoroki was like a charger, and his hugs always made Izuku feel so much less stressed. He's not sure why, it just does. He feels like he might just melt and pressed his face into Todoroki's shoulder. I'm fine. Everything went exactly as planned down to the last detail. I'm sorry I worried you. Izuku said, his voice muffled. I would have been home sooner, but I passed a bakery that smelled fantastic. You should see what I brought home. Todoroki sighed and pried Izuku off him to hold at arm's length. Seriously? I've been worried sick and you stopped at a bakery? Izuku at least had the sense to be ashamed. I know. I shouldn't have. It just smelled really good and, I'm sorry. I'm not going to make an excuse, but at least look at what I bought. Fine. Todoroki still sounded upset but opened the box regardless. He stared at the contents for a moment. They look like Black Rabbit. I know. The lady in the bakery came up with them since I've apparently gotten really popular. Plus, I kinda had to buy something since she... Izuku's voice stared, getting wobbly as he remembered what she had said. He was going to cry. Zuku. Todoroki was back with Izuku, worried again. What's wrong? What did she say to make you upset? Izuku hugged him and buried his face back in Todoroki's shoulder. She called me, Black Rabbit, a hero. People consider me a hero. People think I'm heroic. I'm not a fad, people actually think that. She made a pastry about me. I just dash. Arms wrapped around him and held him tightly while he started sobbing. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? You seem really upset by it. I don't know. At first I was really happy, but now I'm just confused as to what I'm supposed to feel. When I was little, all I ever wanted was to be a hero, but shit happened, things changed, I don't know how to feel about it anymore. Izuku hiccuped. I'm sorry. I'm getting your shirt wet. It's fine. I'm still mad at you, but I can wait to lecture you until after you calm down. You're the FNG best. Have I ever told you how goddamn amazing you are? Todoroki hummed. Maybe once or twice. That's a lie, Izuku tells him all the time. I'm so lucky to have you here. I'm so lucky you're my friend. You're the best person I know. Yeah? Well, you've always been my hero. That was it, that officially broke him, and the next 20 minutes were spent with Todoroki holding Izuku while he cried his eyes out. After he eventually calmed down enough, Todoroki made him sit and eat a pastry to make him feel better. Sweets usually help when Izuku is feeling bad, and if they don't, that's how you know you're in a real crisis. Luckily, the blackberry rabbit buns were as delicious as they had smelled, and Izuku started to be doing better the more he munched. Just so you know, I won't be going along with any plan that involves you getting arrested again. That was nerve-wracking. I don't care how long you've thought it through, it was dumb and irresponsible. I know, I'm sorry. No, Izuku, what if you'd gotten hurt? What if something had gone wrong and they caught you? You're my best friend, I don't want to lose you. Todoroki said. I understand how important being Black Rabbit is to you, but please, at least promise me you'll be more responsible about it. You made it out fine this time, but don't tempt fate again, okay? Izuku reached out and put his hand over Todoroki's. I promise this was a one-time thing. You don't have to worry. I will always make sure I come back to you. Todoroki relaxed slightly and smiled a little. Thank you. Did you at least get what you needed out of this stunt? Izuku reached into his pocket and pulled out the cuffs, showing Todoroki with a grin. Up. With these I can finally start my research on quirk suppressants. This is going to open up a whole new playing field for me, I just know it. When Aizawa returned to UA, he was in a terrible mood. Students and teachers alike were diving into the nearest room to avoid him. He entered the teacher's lounge and everyone scattered, even Hitoshi made a break for it. The room was empty by the time Aizawa had sat on the sofa, positively fuming. He is going to kill that rabbit next time he sees him. He was planning said murder in his head when Nizu walked in and sat on the sofa across from him. I assume it didn't go well then? Nizu said after a moment. Aizawa glared back at the rat. Nope. Black Rabbit planned the whole thing right down to the last detail. It took him only seconds to break out of quirk suppressant cuffs like it was nothing, and he deactivated them and left the tracking software in an alley to throw us off. He effectively vanished. I see. Nizu replied. It went as I expected then. Aizawa's eyes narrowed. What do you mean as you expected? Nizu smiled, but there was that glint in his eyes that filled Aizawa with dread. I watched the live stream as well, and it was obvious he purposely allowed himself to be arrested. If such was the case, someone as intelligent as Black Rabbit would obviously have a well-thought-out plan of escape. Nizu's smile turned a little more sinister. I had no doubt he would make it out and leave you with nothing. He's quite impressive, don't you think? Yes, you could say that. Aizawa replied carefully. Well, that's all I wanted to talk about. Farewell. With that, Nizu got up and left the room, leaving Aizawa to sit alone and worry about what Nizu wanted with Black Rabbit, if anything. For all he knew, Nizu was just messing with him, but there was also a chance he wasn't, and that filled Aizawa with pure, ice-cold fear. Black Rabbit doesn't deserve to be Nizu's newest interest. No one deserves that.